help. Come and put a hand. Come and wipe away the blight and see what the plight that befall the man of this land. What's going on here? I would like to know why the whole world is in a turmoil. So it look as if we fire God from the job and give the work to the 𝗪𝗂𝗧𝘂. Man, the devil have a hand in running the land. The devil have a hand in running the land. If you don't have to never like understand. The devil have a hand in running the land. The devil have a hand in running the land. The devil have a hand in running the land. If you don't never like understand. Like if Satan in control of running the land. Hey man. Only wars and rumors of wars. Incurable disease go from sea to seas and they happen without a cause. Strange phenomena now happen everywhere. The callousness of this world has the world in fear. Politics and weaponry have taken slow. They have the whole world out of control. Man, the devil have a hand in running the land. The devil have a hand in running the land. If you don't happen here, well I can understand like it. Oh yes man. Running the land. The devil have a hand in running the land. The king of women here will have to understand like if Satan in control of running the land. Oh man.
And of course, let me say a special hello to all the WZYE 95.9 FM listeners. Yes, people. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀McDonald, better known as the Storm, will be joining us a little late tonight. And also, we're going to have the Phantom joining us real soon. Let me bring in Tommy in here. Tommy.
Good evening, my brother.
Oh, how are you doing, my friend? Today's a fantabulous, splendiferous, marvelous, tremendous day, man.
I know that's right. And I'm glad to be in the village with you this evening.
Well, I mean, you know, when you come into the village, you know, you always have all kind of thing going on in the village, you know what I mean? And of course, tonight we're looking forward to Aboud, boy. Aboud joining us in the village tonight, so we look forward to that. Let me just say some quick hellos here to the people in the chat. You know, with all the people in the chat. Boy, 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 coming early tonight, boy, 6:30 o'clock, yes? And here it is on internet, Tommy. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 see, no, Lana see 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 coming 6:30. She said, nah, 6:35 Lana joining, boy. Lana was having she dinner. She said, nah, boy, let me put on the dinner. And let me jump in here early o'clock, right? We also have inside with us Rishi. Rishi, welcome. Mark Daniel, welcome as well. Mark inside early. Curtis Montrechard, boy. My brethren from Chumaka, Clavantil. Man in the house, yes? Welcome, Dave. Welcome, Curtis. Let me see who else come here. All right. Ulrich, boy. Ulrich in the house early tonight, boy. Listen now, Ulrich beat Cheesesteak and Run DMC.
Welcome to all.
Yeah, Cheesesteak. Ulrich tip all you. It's called Pip Cheesesteak. You know, this fella, Run DMC, what he does, you know, the show just start and the man put a quote, Tommy Hilfiger. What does he mean by that?
I don't know that.
You think you know?
No, I don't have a clue, but I'm not Hilfiger.
Yeah. Anthony Medford, boy, in the house. Welcome. Cheesesteak in the race stealth, boy. Race stealth bomber, boy, in the house. Hey, Cheesesteak, help you with run quote Tommy Hilfiger. I don't understand what he's saying. Of course, Cheesesteak say good evening, WZYE crew and everyone on chat. Yeah, Cheesesteak. Hey, Cheesesteak, I ain't see your brother yet, you know. I mean your cousin breadstick. When you bringing him?
Oh Lord.
The man refused to bring his cousin breadstick, boy. He ain't bringing him at all. He said, nah, boy, I can't bring in this chat. Hey, look. Get up. Oh, look at this. Look who you have in the car, yes? What?
I'm driving, so I may lose connectivity. I pulled over to say good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, now look at this, boy. Whitney, Diana, Benskin, McDonald, boy. All four names, boy. All four names.
Yeah. So I'm driving, but I hope to make it to my home, by 7:38, and then I'll join you then, right? So
no
I just want to say hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Remember the guy Aboud? Is he backstage yet? I sent him the link.
No, he ain't come yet.
Okay. All right.
So you know. I don't know.
Yeah. Hi, Tommy.
Hey.
So let me get.
Hey,
I'm on the Merritt heading north. So let me continue with my journey, right? So
be safe.
Viewers, I'll be with you in a little about an hour.
All right.
Be safe. Be safe.
Yeah. Let's see how we just do it. Yeah, man. Let's see how we just do it, man. Let me add in guy here. The Phantom, boy.
Yeah, boy. Diana looking nice there on the road, though.
I see she splendid first and she pink, boy. She's spectacular, boy.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, she's spectacular too bad. You know? Lana said Diana's a curfew. I reach home before 9, eh? No, we don't. I don't think we have curfew up here, you know that, Lana. We don't have curfew.
No, we are right. Nobody no $1,000 ticket here in America.
Yeah. Oh,
wait. Switch up the house.
Cheesesteak say he put 100 correct sign on thumbs up. But he put Tommy Hilfiger. What does Tommy Hilfiger mean? I'm trying to understand the thing. But people that wear Tommy Hilfiger again run the MC. Them thing going through, boy. You know, Coco sing a song that going through? Tommy Hilfiger going through, boy. People that wear Tommy Hilfiger again. Tommy, Gary, all you know people that still wear Tommy Hilfiger, like how it was a big brand long time.
Had its season.
Nah, I'm telling you, this fella behind the scene, you know.
Yeah, the season for Tommy.
This fella, you know what he's saying now? That is a top brand name in clothing. Run, RUN DMC, right? Tommy Hilfiger going through, Brett. It going through. Look up this song by Crockware. Daddy that going through. Chris, welcome. Chris in the house, yes? Oh, wait now. Vonnie's in the house. Let me see. Vonnie. Yeah. Vonnie, boy. Welcome, boy. Vonnie in the house, boy. Yeah, boy, Vonnie. Diana still dressing, boy. Ray Stealth, boy. Bomber. Like rain. Can't hear you. Rain, boy. Yeah, boy. Ray Stealth, bomber, boy. Hey, all you know. Oh, God, boy. Let me just play these. We have Gary Aboud joining us at about 7:15. Clarice, hi to you too. She's in the house. People run. People run. What wrong with you, boy? I saw that they be selling Tommy Hilfiger by Rattans now. I because up there, when you're going in 99-cent store, there's only Tommy Hilfiger you're going Tommy Hilfiger and Tommy Hilfiger. Any kind of figures when you're going by Rattan, by 99-cent store. But people don't buy them thing again, boy. What's wrong with you? Miami Jesus. Welcome, boy. Welcome back, boy. What? Miami Jesus join us in the village, boy. I know Miami had joined us before.
So, Anselm, how did you enjoy your emancipation celebration this year?
Emancipation celebration? It wasn't a good emancipation.
Oh boy, don't tell me.
No, it wasn't. Did you see where the Prime Minister, right?
That's where I was going. I'm glad.
Did you see what he write? Look, you trying to get me vexed, you know. I was peaceful tonight, and I'm happy because we go and hear Mr. Gary Aboud and see where you going. You see where it is go? What do they just want to steal people happiness, you know?
No.
I feel you find I was too happy tonight. You just want to come and steal my joy, man.
No.
Where's that one, Tommy? Where's that one?
I ain't trying to steal your joy. I just trying to put something out there that is a hot button topic since yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. Lana says, and some who was held with fake immunization cards and fake COVID tests. Those say it was a 3-year. You know, Lana? I ain't gonna lie, Lana, that's a real news, you know. Yeah, Lana like a walking media center, you know. It should be Lana NN. You know, like CNN. Lana, I ain't really know that. But you gonna tell me though. Boy, Lana, I hoping it's not Trinidad truth, eh? I hoping, please. Don't let it be a Trinidad, and whatever it is. Hold up. Yeah, boy, Miami Jesus, Trini people always in some type of commerce, boy. See, at this point, I don't really feel emancipated, honestly. Wait now. Ron says, I am a family name calling in Tobago with the Heritage Festival. Ron, where's your family name? What's your family name thing? Hey, Albert Montano, let me say a special welcome to you, boy. Very, very special welcome to you. Ulrich, you see people that say people don't ask you a question. Chris asks you a question, you didn't answer it yet. What happened? You didn't answer the question yet. About 25 comments going on and you didn't answer the question. Yeah. Miami, Jesus say, yeah, Lana, that ain't no joke, you know. Lana says she's thinking of becoming a reporter, but real, you know, Lana's like, you know, like Lana have a phone and she just get all the news from all them different agencies. Like they send Lana the news. But let me look at some quick floodings here in different parts of Trinidad and Tobago. I have a good one here. Let's look at this one first.
Independence Square. First time I see this going here. First time. Alongside the cathedral. First time I see this. Apparently, river bus and flooding out. Okay, running straight down. Straight down. This is pressure. People stand there, they can't even move. Like it coming down Nelson Street too, eh? And jackass me now went and do an engine wash. Gotta find something that can pass, you know.
You see this? But I don't go my train. Blood, Jesus.
cars by the bridge gone from down by Charlo. Everything. What is this going on in St. Anne's today?
Look at that water they brought from.
It's full up. Oh God, boy.
Blood.
Oh, let's see, boy. All kind of thing. Let me say welcome to Linda Gibson. Linda, welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you inside in the village. Let me see who else joined us here. Yeah, I think that's it for now. We're waiting for Gary Aboud to join us. Let's look at another quick video here. Let's look at this one here.
Royal Bank Oil, Royal Bank Maraval. Look at it, look at it. Okay.
This is the scene right now on Piccadilly Street.
What today?
Seeing that?
What on top variation? What on top? I print the fancy.
Look at that, look at that. Look at that. This is Piccadilly Street.
Let's put it again. I see that thing come out of that river for the river dirty. Eh?
You know something, boy? I want to say something, eh? Let me remove that one. You see, Tommy, Gary, let me bring Gary in. Hold on.
Yep.
Tommy and Gary. Yeah, Linda. Diana will be joining us in a little bit. She in transit right now. So she'll be joining us in a little bit. Yeah, Diana had a fantabulous weekend. So folks, let me bring Gary in. Hold on. Hey Gary, welcome.
Yeah, I seem like I ended up backstage again. I don't know.
Yeah. So all you see, all them flood happening in Trinidad and Tobago, eh? And you know it's kind of sad that we have spent. Hi Rose, how are you? We have spent close to $1 billion renovating all kind of places in Trinidad and Tobago. The Red House, right? The President's House, the Prime Minister's residence in Tobago as well. We have really and truly spent millions of dollars, close to billions of dollars. And you're telling me, boy, in 2021, we can't take care of some flooding in Trinidad and Tobago, boy? As a matter of fact, right, Canarsie is a place in Brooklyn we used to flood a lot. The last hurricane they had here, that place flooded out there. And Canarsie built a system. Whenever there's a large amount of rain, right, they have a pumping station that take the water out of the river, store it in a location, right? Because the river, the tide is high. Store it in a location, and when the tide goes back down, they pump it back out into the river. No flooding now in years. I brought people and showed them exactly what the people are doing here in Brooklyn. Eh? I brought them in. I said, well, listen, all you can give is people, these people will show you exactly what you all need to do in order to stem the tide of the East Dry River over flooding. You know, long, I mean, I literally that says 1977, and the East Dry River still, it's still, I mean, it is mind-boggling, man.
Anson, the situation has gotten worse, you know. It hasn't gotten better, you know. And the reason for that is the infrastructure built afterwards. They did not think about preparing for these kind of a situation. Now we are dealing in a time where global warming is dumping more water than the usual, right? But we still not even attempting to address these issues. So the flooding, I mean, it's happening across the globe, right? We understand that it happened across the globe. We've seen it here in the US. But there's certain things that could be done, simple thing like what the pumping station you're talking about. But I'm also talking about not just running the water out into the sea afterwards. I'm talking about storing the water for the rest of the year, where people don't have water right through the year most of the time. But remember the water coming down from the hills, right? So one of my suggestions was to Lee Hunt was to divert that water before it reached the lower levels. The water coming down from the hill, try to divert it and contain it before it reached down. So that was one of the strategy. The rest you can do different things with retention and and also diversion. But if you redirect that water into a storage area, we can eliminate a lot of the flooding down in the city. That's in the city situation now. The other areas we can do some dredging and again redirection and store the water. Remember, 6 months of the year people can't get water. You can't even get water while it's raining. You know, so I mean they don't want to listen to nobody. There were plans, I understand, that was drafted since the 70s about changing, about doing something about this issue, but the government refused to do anything about it.
Let me say hello to a new person joining us. Is Royal Records. It is you know, where did let's get them name from, boy? Chris, I see you know is Royal Records. Is Royal Records, where are you joining us from? You know, we like to welcome new people into the village. Where are you joining us from? What part of the world are you joining us from? And the man, the Israel Records said, but yeah, boy, the 4 horsemen. I can tell you who the 4 horsemen is there. Run DMC, breadstick, I mean cheese sticks, nuts cake, and who's the other one, boy? Run DMC, cheese stick, nuts cake. I don't know if you're saying horsemen. I don't think you could put Carice in that, you know. I don't know, you know. Oh, it's Royal Records from Canada, boy. Straight out. What part of Canada? Boy, Canada is up. Oh, you know, what kind of Trinidad on all this, boy? You're from Canada. And you know what? I'm from Spain. What part of Canada are you from? Yeah, Chris, are you sure that is him? Toronto. What part of Toronto? Like, let me give you an example, right? I live in the United States of America in New Jersey, and I live in I gotta be careful, boy, a certain community in New Jersey.
Yeah, I won't give away your location.
I live in a certain community in New Jersey. Let me just send Diana a message and tell she to send Aboud a message, because sometimes them fellas in the mess have a little difficulty.
I have his number. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll give him a call. Yeah. Oh. You know, Rose, you're right, you know. Wolverine. I think Wolverine is one of the 4 horsemen too. Oh, what about Wallafield nuts? But you can't sell nuts to the flood in Trinidad. Right? You don't sell nuts when there's flood, right? All right, so look at let me look at this is St. Anne's. That's what happened in St. Anne's. Right? This is Duncan Street. Duncan Street, where when that river overflowed, it banked, boy. This is what happened. Duncan Street Right? Here it is again on Duncan Street. I know something earlier. Some of these pictures are older. Some of these pictures are from floods in the past. But you know how Trini is. Trini does put up all kind of thing from long time. But hey, you know, it is what it is, man. This is in sentence, I think, a car turnover and all kind of thing. But in this day and age, how could we still be dealing with these things, man? Tommy, how could we still be dealing with these things in this day and age? Why is that?
That's because they're sitting on their brain. What do you think they're doing?
The focus, their focus is off. They're just not interested in the things that would make the nation better. Everybody care about their own pockets.
But they might want to advise from us also. Is that people right in Trinidad they won't take advice from?
Yeah. Lana say, I see a big bridge in 𝗪𝗏𝘆 break and wash away in the flood. Yep. Boy, remember that one fella I see fish coming down the road, yes? Or T-State, Wolverine. Yeah. I think he's one of the 4 horsemen.
And some of the horse now, because the Chinese boy ruling everything. He ruling every ministry. No daughter, dog, damn dog back without he. Minister of everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's...
Go ahead, Tommy.
It's clear he wrote the emancipation speech too.
Boy, that, you know, let me just quickly read that, boy. That, you know, I ain't gonna lie, boy, Tommy. When I saw that thing, boy, I thought that was just, and you know, he changed it. You know, he changed it, right?
No, he changed it. He had the nerve.
Of course, he had to go and change it. He updated it, man. Of course, he had to go and update it. But you see me, you see what I thought he should have done.
But like you always say, when the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in.
You can't put it back in, man. You can't put it back in. And he should have been man enough and come out and explain to the people exactly what happened. And, you know, if you make a mistake, apologize for your mistake and say, you know, the person who I give to write the speech, they write something incorrect, and I want to apologize, and, you know, that's why I took it down. He took it down. Right? And anytime you see, you know, but that quote is a real good quote, you know. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in. I wonder where I get that quote from, boy. That's a real good one, boy. Oh, hold on. I'm looking for his speech. The one where he says, where he said it, because I know he ended up changing it. And then David Mohammed, boy. Oh, God.
Well, you know, David is a boss.
Oh, God, boy. He put out something there, boy. Woo! It was to the point, man. I'm looking to see if I find it right now. Hold on, I don't want to, once I go down here, it's so much things that is having here. Oh, here it is. Oh, no, he changed it. So he updated it to say, today we recognize not just the horrific experience of our African ancestors, but the impact it continues to have on the lives of millions of their descendants. And then he went on to talk about the Atlantic slave trade. Now, this is his first comment. This is the initial comment. Let me get that for you. Yeah, boy. He made a big blunder there, boy. Oh, here it is. This is what he said. Every people, quote, I'm quoting here now, right? Every people, every race has experienced some history of slavery. On the African continent, slavery existed before the Europeans arrived, and it turned Africa's west coast into an organized export enterprise. Here is David Mohammed comment. Quote, it is absolutely shameful, outrageous, and embarrassing for any black man on Emancipation Day to say that every people, every race has experienced some history of slavery. The enslavement that Africa endured was a dehumanizing, genocidal mass murder that involved arbitrary execution, torture, drama, rape, and destruction of our family. This occurred over a 300-year period. No people and this is in uppercase letters, no people, no other race have ever experienced any process even close to the extreme brutality. Furthermore, the institutionalized racial hatred and oppression and the intergenerational after effects of the Black Holocaust have such far-reaching consequences that we still feel the impact of them today. So for the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to come out and say, I'm going to tell you this, sir. I have to be honest, sir. He sent out that message on, I think, Instagram. I screenshot it immediately. Because I know that the ego take it down. Because he really cannot defend that. You know, sometimes it is say, boy, it's better to keep silent and make people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and confirm it. You know, the Prime Minister really, boy, that was really embarrassing. It was really, really very embarrassing, very embarrassing. You know, and Tommy, I really didn't want to go there.
But we had to. We had to.
Yeah.
We had to air that because that is just too embarrassing. Over and over, he keeps showing Trinidad as another real place.
Yeah. Yep. So Albert Montano asks, Oleg does always come in with Oleg does always come in. Great is the PNM boy. Yeah, Oleg, great is the PNM boy. Yeah, we're not Cake and Wolverine. I think they're going somewhere. All right, let me see this. Albert Montano says, answer the government of Trinidad and Tobago don't treat the East Dry River residents with the same importance as other areas. Although for the last 60 years, the same parties in power. Correct is right. Yep, Richie, correct is right. Only spending it in all the wrong things. Stoops. You know how long I know that dry river overflowing? You know how long? Years now. It's years now the dry river overflowing. And you tell me about 2021?
Let her rename it. Dry River is a misnomer.
Nah, we had named that the PNM River. Yeah, Anselm, remember just days ago they were asking for more? You think it's easy? Man, what? Lana says she get job sting today, boy. Yeah? Albert said the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Honorable Stuart Young, tell me otherwise. Nah. Nah. Don't worry about that, Albert. That will never happen.
Anselm, don't doubt anything, you know.
Nah, Tony, don't doubt.
Boy.
Tony, that will never happen in Trinidad and Tobago. I could
never
say
never. Never say never.
I know, but this one, I could say never. Rajvi, welcome, boy. Rajvi say, see how they set up 𝗂𝗲? No, I think 𝗂𝗲 done, you know. I think he done. Yeah.
Biden.
Haley, welcome. I think he done. T6 wants to say, what's the history behind 𝗲𝗍𝐻 flowers? Is it because too much snakes live in it? T6, we asking you. we asking. I just live in 𝗲𝗍𝐻 house. He asking. Right. You asking me a question. Lana says the public libraries in Port of Spain was built on water. Which one was it? Lana, which one was that? One to Aboud, but anyhow, in the meanwhile, we have so much things to cover. I send
the number, right?
Oh, you send me the number? Yeah. You send it via text? WhatsApp?
WhatsApp on the chat for everybody.
Okay, let me see. Okay, let me see. All right. I'll go call him on here, man. Hold on. I'm gonna call him on here. I'll call him. Hold on, I'm gonna call him. So I'll call him Mr. Aboud on here right there. Guys, you know, all you know we just do it.
Oh, Barry.
Hello, Mr. Aboud. This is 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝘆 from WZYE 95.9 FM. We were you supposed to join us at 7:15?
Huh?
Were you supposed to join us at 7:15?
Yeah, but I never got any link. I'm sitting here waiting.
You didn't get a link?
No.
All right, I will send it right now. I'll send you the link right now.
Okay.
I'll send it to you right now. Okay, all right. Yeah.
WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, I'll send it on WhatsApp.
Okay.
All right.
Hold on, I'll get it.
Yeah, hold on. Let me send it to you right now. And tell me you get it. All right, hold on. So folks, I'm sending the link to Mr. Aboud here. Let's see.
Surprisingly, we could have heard him because usually we are unable to hear the person you're talking to.
Yeah. So can you check your WhatsApp? I just sent it.
Okay, got it.
All right, so you just log on to that link. You could try to go through Chrome if you could.
I don't know. I'm doing my best. Let me just see here. I don't have Chrome. I have Google.
Well, put it in Google and see. And there's the link. And that link should put you in. And then I'll see you backstage.
Delete where it says link.
Run me. Go ahead.
Okay. Then it's in French, but StreamYard, I'm not getting it. Mayor, you help me with this?
So folks, we are doing, we just do it in the village, right? We have Mr. 𝗲𝗄𝐿𝐴 on the line, and we are working through to get him on the platform.
You get started to the email address.
Hey, Rowley, welcome. That's not the Prime Minister earlier. When were you talking about? When say?
6-digit. Please check your email. We have sent a 6-digit code.
Right, you got code.
So go to the email.
Ron say Wall Street like you ain't clicking tonight. Clicking what?
Huh? No. StreamYard login 810972.
Lana says, and some, I wonder if Stuart Hines or Mr. Hines did a press briefing on all that drugs they found. You know, I don't think so, you know. Hey, Ray Stout, I think we already welcome Ray Stout. So we have a new person here.
Education, professional work, small business.
𝗲𝗃𝗲𝗿𝘆, welcome to Indie Village. Where are you joining us from?
Other destination, no. Skip that to somewhere. Where you want me to go to Twitch, you say?
No. We on YouTube. But the link should put you directly into our backstage. When you get the link.
Other destination. It asks me for other destination.
Hold on. Let me do something. Let me add Diana. Hold a minute. Hold 1 minute. Hold 1 minute. Just a minute.
Onward.
Okay. You're back with us. I could. What is it telling you?
It's telling me other destination. Facebook page, Facebook group, Facebook profile.
Hey, Diana. Diana?
Yes, I'm driving there.
Yeah, but we have Mr. Aboud on the other line, and we're trying to get him in the system.
I sent him the link in Messenger.
No, but I think maybe he was looking for it on WhatsApp and he didn't get it.
I sent him a messenger. I only have his contact and messenger.
Okay.
Link to him on WhatsApp.
But Diana, you want to take over and kind of, if you could pull over and walk him through what he needs to do?
Let me find a location. I'm not in a place where I can put over.
Okay.
Is he on the phone right now, Mr. Aboud?
Copy link. Okay. Trying to get him.
Just click on Aboud in messenger, the purple section.
So folks, we're trying to do something on the fly here, okay? So bear with us. So anyway. So you're
okay, to use StreamYard on this device, tap the three dots icon.
I sent you something in messenger. Click on that purple section. It comes up purple, I don't know.
No.
The StreamYard link. Click on it. The words that say StreamYard, click on that. Then
all right, folks. So let's just continue while they work that out here. So today, right? Oh, let me bring back in Gary. Guys, so today we had the mayor of New York talking about, you know what? I don't really want to talk about this here on YouTube because YouTube pulling on a lot of pages when you start to talk about COVID-19 and the jab and so on and so forth. So we have to be very careful with how we talk about this. All right? But I want you all to listen to this.
So today I announce a new approach, which we're calling the Key to NYC Pass. The key to New York City. When you hear those words, I want you to imagine the notion that because someone's vaccinated, they can do all the amazing things that are available in this city. This is a miraculous place, literally full of wonders. And if you're vaccinated, all that's going to open up to you. You'll have the key, you can open the door. But if you're unvaccinated, unfortunately, you will not be able to participate in many things. That's the point we're trying to get across. The Key to NYC Pass will be a first-in-the-nation approach. It will require vaccination for workers and customers in indoor dining, in indoor fitness facilities, indoor entertainment facilities. This is going to be a requirement. The only way to patronize these establishments indoors will be if you're vaccinated, at least one dose. The same for folks in terms of work. They'll need at least one dose. This new policy will be phased in over the coming weeks. So we've been working with the business community, getting input. We're going to do more over the next few weeks. The final details of the policy will be announced and implemented in the week of August 16th. We'll then spend most of a month educating people, going out to businesses, receiving calls from businesses, answering questions and concerns, making sure everyone understands the new approach. And then on September 13th, during that week, we'll begin inspections and enforcement. The Key to NYC Pass, this is an easy approach because to confirm vaccination, all you need is your vaccination card or the NYC COVID Safe app or the 𝗪𝐿𝐶𝐴R app from the state. Any of those will do. So it's simple. Just show it and you're in.
There you have it. So that's kind of similar to TT Pass. And what's happening, right, is that Ellis, welcome. Ellis said nonsense from that mayor. But Ellis, that coming to Trinidad soon, eh? Right? Coming to Trinidad soon. We have to be very careful with our language, regarding the jab, because Facebook taking down, not Facebook, but we just on YouTube now, and YouTube pulling down pages too bad. Run isn't, I don't know even rude when this coming. No, but we're trying to get
I think Zuckerberg bought YouTube, right? He bought over YouTube, right? Zuckerberg.
Nah.
He didn't buy
Zuckerberg?
over YouTube?
No, I don't think so. Zuckerberg? No, because
no, it was WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
WhatsApp. You mean WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought WhatsApp.
I think YouTube is Google own.
Right. Google and YouTube. Right. So they're in competition with each other. Right? So let me play another video here. This is this other video I have here. Okay. Oh, we were going to talk about. So the Minister of Trade is talking about companies trying to come to Trinidad to invest. There are companies lining up to invest in Trinidad and Tobago. These are good strategy, boy. I like this strategy.
Several U.S. companies are interested in investing in Trinidad and Tobago. The U.S. Embassy's charge d'affaires in Trinidad and Tobago, 𝗧𝗂𝗄𝗎, spoke of the investments when he met virtually with Minister of Trade and Industry, 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝗄𝗎, recently. Mr. Moore noted that there are 6 companies interested in traveling to this country to further explore collaborations in the information, communications technology, food and beverage, and energy sectors. The meeting was held to discuss trade relations between and opportunities for non-energy investment in Trinidad and Tobago. This country's products currently benefit from preferential access to the U.S. market under the Caribbean Basin Initiative, a preferential trade agreement which has been extended to Caribbean countries until 2030.
You hear that? So we have companies who, once they invest in Trinidad and Tobago, boy, in spite of what we're going through, we have plenty companies. So we have 6 companies that once they invest, hey, Ellie say invest in Trinidad to get robbed.
Yeah, but Anselm, when we had Mariano Brown on last week, I was trying to go there with him to say to him that when the economy is depressed, it's probably a better time to invest than when it's inflated or it's doing well, because you pay it. I mean, your investment is less costly when the economy is down. Do you agree? You're a business lecturer, aren't you?
Well, you know, it's right. It's like the stock market. However, when you look at the ratings you're getting from Standard & Poor's, right, and the future projection to be negative, it might not be the right time to invest in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, depending on the type of business it is that you're going into.
Well, yeah, but you know, at this point in time, Raj, we say 6 shiny company. at this point in time, if I was a CEO of a corporation, you know, I will think twice about trying to invest in Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time.
Depends on your line of business.
Well, but Tommy,
no, Tommy's right there in answer. Because if you have business that is collapsing, right, then it's greater opportunity for you to take it over. You know, so again, it depends on the line of business you're in.
I thought in 101.
But Tommy, so for example, what type of business you think someone could invest in Trinidad and Tobago right now, as an example, that you think that somehow 2 years from now you'll be able to get some ROI, return on your investment?
Well, you want to go with some things that are essential and that are, you know, things that are, or lines of businesses that you can't go wrong in, so to speak, that is needed. I mean, there are so many needs in Trinidad and Tobago right now.
Yeah, but I think right now, remember, Trinidad is an oil and gas country, right?
Yeah, but we'll have to say was, because
was. You could say was, right? But think about that. Where you want to go and invest in Trinidad and Tobago other than oil and gas? Oh, Alex raised a good point. Agriculture and medical marijuana.
All of that.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Ellis, that's a great point. Lemo also says Trinidad have too much forex problems. That's true too. Right? That's true too. And Hailey said the country has no USD. Remember, we have a 439 deficit in foreign 439 million in foreign direct investment. Deficit of 439 million. And you hear how Darius Figueroa talk about the US dollars in Trinidad and Tobago is that we really do export much. You understand? We do a lot of importing. And when you go in the grocery, type of things you see, you know, on the grocery shelf that they're using the US dollar to purchase in order to sell to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You know? So I believe that, yes, there are certain industries, but it's going to be very risky for you to do it. You know, very risky. Agriculture, yes. Medical marijuana, yes. There are plenty marijuana in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's serious. Somebody says 6 Chinese company. How come he never mentioned the company names? Linda Gibson says, I hope it's not Chinese company. Raj V says, they go come and leave right after. Wait, look, we have a new person here, yes? Suvi, is it? Suvi or Suvi? All the other, excuse me, I'm not the most adequate people with name pronouncing. So, Suvi, welcome. Can you tell us where you're joining us from? And your comment is, if we don't protect our freedom, we'll have no freedom worldwide. So, Suvi, where are you joining us from? Highly say invest in Trinidad to get robbed. I don't think so. I see no comment from Ulrich. So, you know, Ulrich just pout already, but nobody reading the comment. He comment. Albert Montana says, the government know about the flooding since the days of Eric Williams, and I got caught in the flood 1979 in South Key. So I had to drive on the pavement. Yeah, boy. Ron says, oh, here we go. Here we have Gary Aboud. Let's bring him in. Let's bring in Mr. Aboud here. Hello, Mr. Aboud. Welcome to In the Village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. Can you hear us?
Unmute your mic.
Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. Your mic. Unmute your mic.
Okay, unmuted. Please call
me. There you go. Yes. Well, let me just say this. I know it, but what we do, we here in the United States of America are very respectful to our guests, you know, and we like them to know how do we want to call them. You know, we don't call any kind of name. We are very respectful. All of us are Trinidadians, but we are very respectful. So it's okay if you want us to call you Carrie.
Okay, well, don't call me uncle or grandfather.
Okay. All right, that's good enough. You know, we want to say thank you so very kindly, you know, for joining us here tonight. Of course, it's In the Village with the DAG Triplets. We call ourselves the DAG Triplets. D is Diana, you know, and Diana is the young lady you were just on the phone with. A is Anselm, and G is Gary. And we also have a fourth person, you know, we call him the outside child, but the ladies in the chat call him the love child. You know, so so there is, I see you laughing, man. You might say, boy, them fellas are a real comedy, boy. So again, go ahead.
Welcome, Mr. Aboud. This is 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝐿, your friend.
Great, man. Just call me Gary. I'm not so old yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is where I would like to start, right? I want to start with congratulating you on the award you received back in April. You know, that was, you were very, I could see you were very emotional about that award that you received. And I think you were in front of 𝗪𝗪𝘆. I might not be pronouncing it correctly, right? When you received that award. Can you talk a little bit about that? Are you hearing us?
About what was that in April, you said?
You received an award back in April.
Oh, that was the first ever award I got in my life. Actually, the second one, but yeah. Well, it really has no no value. I mean, I suppose it's a great honor, but because I'm aware of so many battles that we've lost, that I don't feel a sense of celebration that the person who we are fighting to protect or fighting against to defend should give us an award. Because in every instance, today we have flooding, bad flooding, poor people, everybody, all walks of life, lost their cars, lost property, homes flooded, businesses flooded. And I feel personally that it's because of our failure to get our government to have regulations that are enforceable and enforced. That today, hundreds of thousands of dollars, no lives, but value. And sometimes, I mean, the DAG group perhaps can afford, but there are a lot of people that can't afford. And they're vulnerable. And so, I mean, about 10 years ago, they called us and they said they wanted to give 𝗲𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗍 a doctorate at the university, a doctorate in law, because I had done so much work in the law that they thought that the environmental laws had evolved. And then the day before they were supposed to give it to us, they called us and say, sorry, we're giving it to somebody else. So, you know,
who did they give it to? Who did they give it to? You remember? Who did they give it to?
I remember, but I won't call her name because I don't want to offend her in any way. And she has done good work, but not in the law, not to promote environmental law. A lot of our work has been in the court. I mean, you know, it's a strange thing how the group started, but it started as a public interest group to defend.
Well, Mr. Aboud, I don't want to just start yet. We got to go for a quick station identification for the top of the hour. All right, so stick and stay. We're going to go for a quick station identification. I'll be right back. Of course, we have with us, he wants us to call him Gary. So Gary Aboud, right, he's an environmental activist for fishermen and friends of the sea. You know, so we're going to go for a quick station identification, and we'll be right back with Gary Aboud. How to say? All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
And of course, we are back with you. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM, and we come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. And just so you know, Gary, we are also broadcasting on 95.9 FM here, you know, in New Jersey and as well as in the diaspora. So it's not just on YouTube, but we are also broadcasting on the radio as well. And I wanted to talk, before you go, right, the award was the Greenleaf Award, a special award for 25 years of outstanding contribution to the environment. That's the award I was talking about, you know, for your outstanding contribution to the environment. So go ahead and talk about the person who got the the doctorate and they were going to give it to you, and then they decided they were going to give it to someone else. So you can continue.
Brother, in life, it's not what you know, it's what you do with the little that you know. So I have a good friend in New York. His name is Guy Small. I wish I could see him right now because he taught me a lot about, he's a Trini. He taught me a lot about the humility that the truly successful people carry as their mark, as their brand. So, I mean, my father was alive at the time, and it would have been a great honor to him because he was a simple guy who worked his way up from nothing. So it would have been an honor for him to see that his son, who had done all this work over all these decades, was recognized by the university as having made a national contribution. But it doesn't really change the reality of life. I mean, I'm looking at the Netflix series on a guy called Simón Bolívar because I always hear that Chavez, who is generally not popular in the Western world, and I wonder why, because he had a lot of good ideals and ideologies, and he always talked about the Bolivarian Republic. But Simón Bolívar wanted to liberate South America from the colonial dictatorships that had evolved. We in the Caribbean, we had our dictatorship removed because they were fed up with us and sugar wasn't catching the price, and they just were tired of us, so they cut the string and let us loose. But Latin America had to fight for their liberty. And there's a lot that I'm learning from looking at the life of Simón Bolívar, sacrifices that their people in South America made for freedom. But here in the Caribbean, freedom came easy. We were given it. I mean, slavery was abolished, but not because of the sacrifices fought by all races to obtain freedom. But now that we have freedom, it seems as to me, I mean, many people might vex with me that I see things like this, and they might say that I didn't go through the excruciating torment. But I understand and I read and I know and I feel the pain. But that is no excuse for allowing our country to slip and slide down the drain. I'm not going nowhere. I mean, I hope you guys come back home, because home will always smell like home. The sound of the cock in the distance, the sound of somebody neighbor cooking a particular type of food, and the smell and the feeling, the smell of the grass, the smell of the plants. There's a familiarity that is here that I'm sure as soon as you land, you smell it and you feel it. So I know it. I lived abroad and I'm here and I'm staying here. But unfortunately, most people just think that they're passing through here. They think that they're not from here. And when Marshall Montano sang back in the years, Take Me Back Africa, I took an objection to this song because, and many people didn't agree with me, and I took a lot of licks in it because then as now, I am firmly of the opinion that that song has done more damage to our national identity than anything else that I can recall in our history, because this is home. I don't want nobody take me back Syria. I don't even speak the language. I love my parents. I have some relatives that I love, but I don't love everybody because they are Syrian. I can't see that way. There's good and bad in everything. And I believe that what we need here more than ever is we need a national identity. Even Jamaica has it more than we do, where all people accept each other as one, and where we can stand up and defend our democracy as one. Today we have companies discriminating against workers who don't want to take the experimental injection approved for emergency use. So companies are saying that the workers will be locked out. And here we don't have a national uproar. People are losing their jobs. Businesses shut down for 10 weeks. People have spent their savings. People are suffering. Taxi drivers, small businesses, all kinds of people are suffering. But there's no national unity to stand up for each other as one. We had a procurement law since 2014 with the corrupt 𝗓𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗃 government brought the act to parliament and passed it with a simple majority because the PNM abstained. That single law written by Afro Raymond, Afro Trini, was commissioned by 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝗧𝗃, consulted with civil society, came up with a blueprint of what the act would be, and she passed it. But it needed regulations. The election came, Rowley government came, they promised they would pass it. A whole 5 years passed, he didn't pass it. This is the law to stop corruption. Now, I don't care if you're Chinese, Indian, French Creole, white, black, Indian, whatever. This is a law to defend the treasury. We have, I mean, New York has a lot of poor people. I see them on the roads. You have homeless people, but they have an organized infrastructure of institutions to reach out. We don't have that here. So that we need to stop the corruption so we could finance social programs in a very real way. Right now, we don't have money to pay pension. And they're saying that the pension system is going to go bankrupt because you don't have enough revenue to sustain it. But this procurement law is the master law to prevent corruption. Rowley said he would pass it, and 2 weeks before he passed it, he removed all the restrictions from it so that the thieving can continue carte blanche. Now, I mean, you guys out there in the snowy white America, where incomes are easier, much easier to obtain a reasonable standard of living for hard day's sacrifice than it is here. Here we have people working day and night, can't see their ends. And that's why we suffer from the brain drain. But the one way that we can reverse the brain drain and keep the wealth at home here is if we could pass the procurement law. And the Rowley government watered down and made nonsense out of it. And worse than that, there's a trend now where they want to remove all of the procurement oversight of all of the private state companies. So they're bringing a maritime law right now in Parliament, a maritime law, 600 pages long, but one paragraph say that the maritime authority, who is in charge of managing, leasing, selling, giving any land for ports, and the Chinese want our ports, that they can write their own procurement regulations if they so decide. So the ruling government appoints the Maritime Authority Board of Directors. That Board of Directors can give out 𝗪𝗏𝗏, Toco, Galeota, Tobago, any port. The port of Port of Spain right now is being given out. An asset that is worth billions to our citizens. And they can give it to anybody of choice secretly. You and I can't say, because they will have the authority to rewrite their own procurement law. So I am a sore thumb in a bruised nation that is in a hospital without bandage. You know, so what does a doctorate mean? What does it mean? I could take it anywhere. I'm not going anywhere to show it off. It has no value, brother. It has no value if there's no meaning to our life contribution. So I'm honored that you guys called me, and I'm honored to be able to share my simple opinions with you all. And I know that some people will disagree, some people will be angry. They may not understand where I'm coming from. They may think that I'm attacking one party group or another. I'm not attacking any party group. Every political entity in Trinidad has raided our treasury, and this government is no different. They're doing it on the slide. Just look at the rental of buildings. Look at who they're renting from and how much they're paying, and compare the prices that the government is paying for rental properties. I don't want to call.
Yeah, but Gary, why don't the supporters of the PNM, who are the most disadvantaged people in Trinidad and Tobago, don't stand up and say something? Why they don't stand up and say something?
because they think that the party loves them. They think that the party will protect them.
From what?
I love my brother, right? If my brother commits murder, the worst type of murder, I will stand by him. I will go down with him. I will defend him in any way.
But that's a big difference, though. That is your blood, though. That is your blood. That's your blood. I mean, unless them be bleeding PNM blood, that's your blood.
There's this bias where people become paranoid. I'm not a supporter of any political party. I don't vote parties in. I vote parties out. So every time I give a vote to somebody, I give it because I want the other party out. But we have suffered from colossal disappointments with every government that has come and gone. I mean, it's sad. It's sad. And the bias of race. I mean, I don't want to tell you my personal life, but I come from a strong background with a father whose parents were born in Syria and a mother whose parents were born in Lebanon. But we rejected the whole racist ideology back in the 70s, and we grew up in a mixed neighborhood and everybody was one, and there were some families who rejected one race or another, and we boycotted those families and didn't go to their homes. So different people grew up in different ways. The Woodbrook culture is maybe not the Lavender culture, or is maybe not the Peparo culture, but ultimately each person must face their own life and their own soul and their reincarnation or their spirit or their God based on how they think and how they feel. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm telling you that the devil, or what we call Satan, is alive and well, and he relishes racism. He breathes in it.
So, Mr. Aboud, you went down a road there, right? And what happens is that in our program, when people hear certain people come into the program, they send us certain questions. We also have questions from the chat. Let me take a question from the chat first. One person said, Mr. Aboud, what's your thoughts on today's flooding in Port of Spain, 𝗲𝗂, St. Anne's?
Well, the flooding, I wrote on a chat group with about 10 ex-ministers, 15 ex-permanent secretaries. It's like the who's who chat group. All university professors. And I mean, the flooding is an example of the degradation, of the failure of Trinidad and Tobago as a state to protect its citizens. I mean, I have fought for squatters. I'm not against squatters. I think people need a place to live, and it is our birthright that the government should provide for us, that we have shelter. I would even go so far as to say that every vagrant or every displaced person, that we should work hard to protect them, because if we don't protect our vulnerable, then who are we? Who are we really? What kind of a place it is that if someone loses a job, is a single parent, what kind of a place are we? Abigail, my friend Abigail, she took in a homeless woman with her 2 children who were living in the underground of one of the Rami Manjon stadiums, a multi-million underutilized stadium. A woman with children displaced under COVID, living because she can't pay rent. So I see the flooding today as symptomatic of a failed state. Let me explain. Beetham Gardens, everybody drives on the Beetham. And Beetham Gardens, the residents there were squatters. Some of the residents of Beetham Gardens work in my little company. They're not even born here. They're born in Guyana. Most of the Trinidadians that live in Beetham Gardens moved out and evolved and did better in life. And so their places in Beetham Gardens, which the government of the Republic spent taxpayers' money to build proper concrete homes for them, they are building more homes. So they have now encroached onto the highway and they have entered over the wall. They put up a wall when Patrick Manning had the Drummond to Summit. That 600 million splurge, waste of money in a country where people don't have shoes. He built a wall and cleaned up the highway. Now the Beetham residents running business on the verge of the highway and doing agriculture outside the wall and building houses inside and outside the wall. Now, I'm not against landless people seeking to improve themselves and build some kind of accommodation. But in which part of the world can you disregard the law for everybody to see in everybody's face, and no government agency responsible and charged with law to do something does nothing?
But Mr. Aboud, those are the most vulnerable people of the society.
Yes.
And they are mainly ignored by the government until an election comes. So they have to see within their powers in order to find ways to put food on the table for their kids. And some of those ways may not be what's on the law books.
Yes.
So they're basically in survival mode. It's survival mode for them. So whatever they got to do to survive, they got to do to survive. Now, there are other people who are not facing the same circumstances that they are facing. And I can tell you, I understand that because I grew up in 𝗪𝗂𝗲𝗏. So I could understand what those people are trying to do. So I'm kind of taken aback. Well, not taken aback that, you know, when you look at them and say, well, they are breaking the law. Yes, they are breaking the law, but they're in survival mode. You know, and
precisely. And you don't have to.
Good night, Amsterdam. Pleasant good night, Mr. Gary Aboud. My name is Adrian from Opinion Box. First and foremost, let me tell you thank you for being on the show. I am a really big fan and supporter of you. I came to your business last year to actually meet you. And I couldn't have met you last year, but I wanted to tell you thank you for letting so many small business owners come into your compound and do small business there. You know, I believe in supporting local, and I want to commend you for being different. Now, I heard the statement you just made, right? And to an extent, I can agree with Anselm to the fact that these people are in a desperation mode. But I am not going to agree with him 110% on that statement, because if you look at a simple thing with HGC, I have decided that I was going to be going a new direction with my platform as of today, where I decided I was going to highlight the things that people don't see, the truth in Beetham and Laventille and Sealots, the things that the government don't show you, the real poverty, the stuff that people are going through in these areas. And we had 𝗪𝗏𝘀𝗀𝘏 last week saying that HGC is being owed so much money, over $130 million, right? From people who are paying rent at $100. Now, Mr. Aboud, I am sure you are fully aware that Duncan Street, Nelson Street, St. Paul Street, tenants pay roughly $100 a month, and most of them don't pay. They live in apartments in 2021, right? With dilapidated windows from since 1990, wooden windows in 2021. It's covered with moss, it's covered with grass, it's not properly maintained by the government or HEC. And the reason for that is because the government is fully aware that if they raise the rent or try to make any improvements there, because of the fact that the people are already in poverty, they will not vote. And those are the dedicated PNM voters. So in other words, they leave them in that lifestyle, they leave them in that level of poverty and misery without giving them proper education and infrastructure to improve their standard of living, because it guarantees them votes. Now, if we have a case, we have so many houses, because at a point in time, I was in the housing sector. We have so many houses around Trinidad and Tobago. I pay $2,500 a month for rent. And I've been renting since before my sons were born, and they are 12 years old now, right? I could have probably bought my own home twice, when you go into AGC and these places to get a house, right, or to apply for rent or to apply for AGC building, most of the time, people who are paying $2,500 for rent, they tell you that you don't qualify, right? So the system is broken from the top, and Slim. And even though Mr. Gary is saying that they're scavenging and stuff like that, the reason for it taking place is because, one, if you deal with the people in 𝗃𝐿𝑜ts, which I intend to do, they will tell you that they don't want to move from the lower half of 𝗃𝐿𝑜ts by the lighthouse there because most of them are hustlers. They don't have proper jobs. They don't have proper toilet facilities, anything like that. The city is where they make an easy living off of selling water and basic goods. There has been times where the government has offered these people to be moved, but at what cost? That is the reality of it. Most of these people can't afford to pay apartments. They can't afford to pay rent, and the government is not going to relocate them and do it for something less. So what we have here again is the same problem, the same reason why Port of Spain flood today and in so many areas that are not supposed to be flooding is flooding now, is because we have governments time and time again who have done nothing but steal the money out of this economy. They have not bettered the infrastructure of Trinidad and Tobago because it does not affect them. And as long as it does not affect them, it will not change. And it boils back down to what I said last night on my page. The problem is not the government. The problem is us as a people. We allow them to get away with a lot of things. We do not hold them accountable for anything in society. What Mr. Gary does be doing, Mr. Gary shouldn't have to be taking time out of his day to walk from Arima to Port of Spain on behalf of change in this country. Philip not supposed to be doing it, and Slim not supposed to be on Alcohol doing all these things.
But Adrian, let me say something, right? Let me say something, right? And I was going to ask Mr. Aboud this, right?
Gary.
Gary, yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Aboud this question, right?
Wait some. Adrian, just let me make my point. The
point okay, go ahead.
The point about 𝗵𝘃𝗻, it's not against 𝗵𝘃𝗻. I defended 𝗃𝐿𝑜ts when the government would come in to take 𝗃𝐿𝑜ts and give it to a shipyard. I defended 𝗧𝘂𝗲𝘆 when the government was coming to move them and force them to buy land. I am not contrary to the challenges of the underprivileged. And I started by saying that it is a citizen's right to ownership. But my point is that when a law is broken, according to Benazir Bhutto, and no one does anything to enforce the law, every single law is weakened. And that is my point. So the same thing that is occurring in 𝗵𝘃𝗻 is occurring in the mountainsides, where we have a law that if a farmer or a land developer wants to develop land, you have to apply to the EMA to cut down the forest to do farming, or you have to apply to the EMA to meet the town and country planning.
Exactly, I agree with that.
But nobody enforces the law, because you go in there and you shake hands with somebody, you give them a little smile, and you rub between their palm gently, and you say, look, I'll see you later, pass and check me, and it works out. The corruption reigns supreme, and there's no prosecution for the corruption. Do you know, we have reported so many illegal activities, but the one illegal activity where the EMA prosecuted the party is when I reported my first cousin, and they prosecuted him all the way in court. Now, why was that? Why? They prosecuted an Aboud, but all the Johns and the Indars and the Baldios things, everybody was not prosecuted. Don't you find that that is a bit awkward? How do I explain that in my own mind, that I've made 50 reports of illegal bulldozing of land development, farming, where they come and even Dr. Rowley cut down 10 acres of land in Tobago and reported to the EMA. They did nothing about it when he was in opposition. But report my first cousin carrying the name of Aboud, and they come down on him and they charge him and take him to court. I mean, you have to wonder. I'm a big supporter of the Black Lives Movement, but it's not just Black lives that matter. It's all of us matter. And when we allow discrimination of one sector or another it's no different, because all of us ultimately bleed the same color. And so this issue of degradation and flooding is as a result of the government turning a blind eye to illegal activities or activities in which approvals were granted. When I built a little garage in a driveway that I have, Town Country come down on me like a ton of bricks for building a little shed in a driveway to fit my car. They came down on me to say that they'll prosecute me because I don't have approval to put a shed. And I see what's going on in the country. Right now, there's a development in Fort George. In Fort George, you'll read about it in today's Newsday. I'm communicating with the developer, but we reported it to the EMA. They cut down 10 acres of cliff and bench it, and all the mud comes down and floods on the residents down below, but no prosecution.
Mr. Aboud, I want to take back to a question, right? So you believe that all lives matter as opposed to Black Lives Matter? Is that, am I accurate with that, or is that a misstatement on my behalf?
Of the Western world, Black Lives Matter. Absolutely, the atrocities that have been committed and continue to be committed, I can't challenge it. These are atrocities. But when an atrocity occurs with a race outside of the Afro diaspora, it is equally a violation of our right as human beings to coexist. And that's all I'm saying. Certainly the Black Lives Matter.
But you see, Mr. Aboud, in this country, when people say all lives matter, it has a whole different connotation than you may look at a connotation in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? Because in this country, for what Black people have gone through in this country and continue to go through. For example, when I leave my house today, if I leave my house tomorrow, there's a great possibility as soon as I turn over the corner, there's a possibility a cop may pull me over. I may not have violated any law, right? And I may end up in jail, or there's a possibility I may end up dead. A person that don't look like me, right, can go the same course, and the cop will look at them differently. You know, and so
I'm with you. I'm hearing you. So I know what you're saying is true.
You know, when people talk about all lives matter and Black Lives Matter, you know, it's trying to kind of, you know, minimize Black Lives Matter. When they say, well, nobody's not saying other people's lives don't matter. That's not what Black Lives Matter is saying. But we are saying that for the things that we go through on a daily basis, many other people don't have to go through that.
Exactly.
And they will never have to go through that. And that's what I was gonna actually ask you a question, and it's a straightforward question. Do you feel as a white Syrian man that you enjoy white privilege in Trinidad and Tobago?
Absolutely. Except once. Once I was in a vehicle with 2 Rastas and with 5 people. I was the only non-African person. And police pull us aside, and boy, they put machine guns on my neck, rough us up, kick us in our groin. I have never experienced that when I'm with non-African people. So even here, it's so real that the Afro bias against our African people, that is real. I'm not challenging.
I thank you for being honest. I thank you for being honest. I thank you very much for being honest.
Yeah, that was the one time in my life when a machine gun was put on my head in my whole life. Other than that, when I go through a roadblock, they smile.
Yeah, but hello.
So it's very real. That branding and that stereotyping is real. It's here, and it's I
know, Gary. Another point, right? And I raised this point, and like I'm a supporter of the People's National Movement, right? And the people in the PNM, boy, if I was living in Trinidad, I should have put about 200 red bullets at me already, right? I believe that when David Welch went before the Red House and he was assaulted and kicked to the floor, I see you doing a protest in front of the Red House. I saw you being arrested. You were arrested very nicely, you know, and there wasn't no assault on you. Philip Alexander went and did a protest too. And Philip Alexander was treated totally differently. But there are people that look like me in Trinidad and Tobago. When I ask if you and Philip Alexander were accorded white privilege, they're saying, what are you bringing race into this for? Because, you know, sometimes we don't want to look at the facts. We don't want to. Why is a little black boy from Nova being treated in a certain way? And because you are Gary Aboud and he's Philip Edward Alexander, they are treated differently. Right? And people say, oh, you user, you should wash your mouth. And that's why I appreciate your honesty. I do appreciate your honesty.
Well, and Slim, let me tell you something, right? You see, we could run with Black Lives Matter down here, but in Trinidad, I'm going to say this, and this is the first time a lot of people are going to hear this. I don't agree with Black Lives Matter in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'll tell you why.
Adrian, I got to tell you, Adrian, then I got to tell you, right? The consequences you are willing to suffer in Trinidad, you're going to continue to suffer those consequences.
Well, right. And this is what I'm going to tell you. You didn't give me a chance to explain. What I'm saying is this. The reason why I don't say Black Lives Matter in Trinidad and Tobago, why I don't believe in it, is because one, a lot of people are using Black Lives Matter, even internationally and locally, for personal gain and financial gain, and to send a woke message and something that you don't believe. Listen, answer them, listen.
No, Adrian, no. I want to say this, Adrian. No, Adrian, no. All right.
And Slim,
no.
And it have one more thing. How can I say Black Lives Matter when the people who are persecuting me the most, the people who are putting pressure on me the most, are black people?
You see, Adrian, that's where you missed everything. That's where you absolutely miss it. Right? That's where you have missed the boat. All right. You gotta understand, right? And that's why I raised the point. There is something called white privilege. Right? And if you are going to treat a certain person one way, and then you are going to treat another person one way, it doesn't matter who is treating you that way. It doesn't matter. Right?
It doesn't. But it's not a white person who is oppressing me. I have a black prime minister. I have a black political party that they say is a black political party.
All of that. But what you saying that you don't believe in Black Lives Matter. But anyway,
I don't believe in Black Lives Matter in terms of the narrative that it's being used for in Trinidad. Because it's not black, it's black people who is oppressing me.
But Adrian, we didn't come here for you and I to have a discussion. We brought Mr. Aboud here, and we want to hear from him. Right? We could have that discussion another time, but I want to hear from him, because like I just asked him that question, and he honestly answered that question, and I appreciate that very, very much. You know,
I know it has white privilege. I am aware of that. I am aware of that, Anselm. I'm fully aware of that. We saw that with the Bayside Tower incident. We've seen that with roadblocks and traffic situations. We've seen that with vehicles being towed on the avenue. There's a certain police don't go near wealthy people in this country. They don't. That is a no-fly zone. Everybody knows that. It's unfair, but that is the reality of it.
Adrian, let's refocus. I want to focus on, we have Gary here, and we want to talk about him, of some of the things that he's doing. So let me kind of lose focus, all right? So I want to get it back on track, Gary. What do you think about the water wastage by WZYE? I know you were in a video talking about the water wastage. What do you think about that?
Gosh, well, and Slim, you're good. Yes, you're really good. The water shortages in Trinidad and Tobago is as a result of colossal corruption. The type of corruption that the Procurement Act would have addressed. Because when WZYE buys something, remember I live here, I'm 62, right? So I know a lot of people, and a lot of people who work in the system come to me and say, boy, I'm having a real problem, this happening. And I listen and I read. The problem of WZYE is corruption. Everything that WZYE buys, they buy at 4 times the market value. Everybody that WZYE employs produce 20 or 25% of the output necessary. WZYE employs 5 times more people than the world average per connection. So, I mean, the Regulated Industries Commission produced a report in 2018 which says everything in black and white. WZYE is a horrible, horrible story because the Pandey government went and privatized water with 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃. When 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 started, they announced that they were spending $200 million US in the establishment of the facility. To date, 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 has earned revenues 10 times more than the investment. In 15 years, in the first 18 months, they recovered the investment. So it is horrible corruption. I know so many things I don't want to say. So the WZYE crisis is designed to make certain people rich and to make everybody else poor. It's like Petrotrin. Petrotrin was closed to make certain people richer than they were and to make everybody else poorer than they are. And there are examples that I could give about Petrotrin and private contracts given out to friends of the party to import oil and sell oil. Just imagine that. You close WZYE and 6 months out, you close Petrotrin and 6 months later, a company turns up out of the blue with a ship in the sea to sell imported oil to foreign vessels. A privilege that the government of Trinidad, that Paria Fuel enjoyed exclusively, where Paria is the sole importer to sell oil and gas to the national distribution network. And all of a sudden, Paria has a competitor who imported on their own. And when you look at it and you see who are the people, the chairman is Dr. Rowley's lawyer. And you look again and see, well, who's the chairman of Paria? And you start to see, well, wait now, is this possible that RNH, what does R stand for? RNH gas? What does it stand for? And this company mysteriously, without any equipment, all they have is pen and paper and selling tens of millions of dollars in oil to international ships that are passing through our water on the way to South America or passing through to drop on the way to North America. They buy fuel here. So it's one level of corruption leads to another level of corruption. And the bottom line is that the police service feel it's their right to be corrupt. I have very strong opinions about domestic violence and the rights of our women to be treated fairly. Because you talk about Black Lives Matter, well, in Trinidad, women are persecuted as much as Afro-Americans are persecuted because they are treated in many of our homes as if they have no rights. Today in 2021. So when Andrea was murdered and the suspects were found, the suspects were beaten until they died. Now, I don't support that. I don't support that. So the police service themselves have taken an example from the government agencies where they feel that they're a law unto themselves and they could do what they want under the banner of securing justice. And it doesn't work like that. That is a degraded and dilapidated and deteriorating society, and that's where we live. So that's my...
Mr. Aboud, that my opinion is they were beaten to shut them up because they would have talked about a lot of people involved. So these witnesses, these suspects was taken out. And the TTPS has been the foot soldiers of the PNM, basically. I mean, they have done so many things a lot of people don't want to hear about, you know. And I mean, they have suppressed the vote. They have done a lot of things. They have done a lot of things. You know, you have physically seen in Trinidad. And I mean, that by itself, I mean, the justice system needs cleanup. I mean, you look at the justice system, won't even stand up for stranded citizens outside the country. We have a case where the case, you know, the case became irrelevant under the state of emergency and some save law. But just imagine, not one judge in the country would have stood up for those who outside the country who could not get through to the government and file a motion, succeeded against the government. And all this oppression against our people, even the justice system, we cannot rely on. You know, so I mean, and yet, I mean, Adrian has a point there, you know, about it's a black police force that's oppressing him. It's the black government that's oppressing their own people. This is a reality. This is what we're dealing with. You know, so I mean, how do we deal with that?
But you see,
there has to be unity with the people.
But Gary, you see, during the state of emergency, right? They locked up 3,000 black people, right? That was under Indian government.
But
right? So we could say that Indian government was oppressing black people too. That's all I'm saying. You've been saying that
the race was more called there because the prime minister was Indian, but it was Afro police that was brutalizing Afro people. They did not do the job.
But Gary, the government put the state of emergency in place.
Yes,
and due to the state of emergency that was put in place, it caused 3,000 black men to be put in jail. That's facts. That's not. I'm making that up. So I'm saying that when we're going to say
the police force was not Indian. It was.
But Gary, they were following the law that was put in place. What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to go out and say, no, we're not going to lock you up. We're not going to do our jobs. They were doing their jobs.
How did they do the job? They were given a job?
Because of emergency.
It didn't answer. It didn't make a difference what color the government was. That's the same way they would have done it. This is the same way they're doing it right now. Who are they persecuting? Where are they going? They're going up in 𝗲𝗶𝘆 and 𝗲𝘃𝗏𝘃 and beating up the people there.
Yeah, but you want to know the thing that a lot of people forget after they did their job? After they did their job, how many of them sue the state and the taxpayers had to pay for it?
But that's the point. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. In that it was illegal and they went after them, and after all was done, right? All the oppression was done. It cost the government a lot of money. So I'm saying that, you know, when we go down, we tend to want to, most of us, a lot of times, we want to go down that road, right? But when you make the comparison to what happened under the UNC, and I don't really talk about the UNC, I really don't, right? Because the UNC is not in power and the PNM is in power. You understand? So I like to talk about the PNM and what the PNM is doing as a government more than anything else. Right?
But the thing about it is the police force is mostly men of Afro descent, and they're not nice to the people who of Afro descent or anybody. These guys are the foot soldiers of the government, especially the PNM, because the PNM built the country. The PNM rule the country, so they're more loyal to the PNM. And at election time, they're more loyal to the PNM.
Well, sometimes.
Well, I've heard so many stories.
And Slim, even if you go back to the root of the problem, the root of the problem is that there's a lack of unity. If we were able to unify all of our people to become race blind, color blind, we would be outnumbering any force that could come at us. But because they have splintered us into separate groups, they could persecute us. When you used the term earlier about white privilege, it's real, but it's not real in every sense of the word. Once I was arrested in 1989, before the coup. And when the police officer arrested me, he told me, "You are a prize. When I take you in, everybody's going to respect me because it's the first time I lock up a white man." And when he took me in, he put me to stand up in a corner, and I turned on my axis just to know, and he said, "Stay still, prisoner." I remember that. So in some instances, but generally speaking, I think that the white privilege argument exists, but not always. Sometimes people are persecuted beyond the usual because it's almost like an opportunity to balance the scale. I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying that the root of the problem that we have in Trinidad in particular is the lack of unity, that we are divided, and regardless of what one party or the other does, we are blind supporters. And so sometimes when I look at the Olympics, or if we are able to have some national threat or national celebration. It does more to pull us together than words can say.
So,
Mr. Aboud,
go ahead, Tommy.
Mr. Aboud, we're talking about gross and wanton abuse, corruption, and all these negative things that are plaguing our nation. What do you suggest as a real solution to these issues, getting our nation back on track?
Well, I could limit myself to 5 things. The first one is that we need procurement law. We need the Rowley government to go back to the books and go back to Parliament and bring back the law in its original form. That's the first thing. That will address the critical leakages that are occurring in every state institution. Secondly, the Auditor General. We need to revisit the act that brings the Auditor General into being and his authority to audit state companies, private special purpose companies, needs to be extended so the Auditor General can review the accounts of every state entity. Thirdly, we need a national leadership that includes and encompasses all the ethnic groups so that racism as it exists and segregation and isolation of our people, somehow we need a spiritual awakening. Fourthly, I feel very strongly about this. We need to support local business. I have a local company. We design our products locally, but we import, the products are manufactured overseas. And we are constantly pursuing local manufacturers who can produce with reasonable competitiveness similar products that we could substitute and not import the products. That needs to be a national mantra, to buy local, to support small business, to promote small business, not just to pay lip service to them and buy from them if we can put a margin and sell their products, but where they are small and they lack competitiveness, we should create opportunities for them to distribute their own products. Because as you would know, if I buy a product for 5 and I have to sell it, maybe I'm going to sell it for 7 or 8. If the small person is small and they don't have large production mechanisms, then if they can sell it for the 8, it's much better for them. So we as business people need to create infrastructure and opportunities for small business to sell locally their production. We need to create mechanisms and opportunities for small business. Fifthly, we need to have a national party, not based on race, a national party based on merit, where individuals who have been involved in public life, who have brought something to all of these sectors of our society, who have fought for the underprivileged, the disenfranchised. We need to get those people, not me. I'm on my way out. I'm 62. We need to get young people who are public spirited and public interest people like Adrian and yourself to consider their future in politics with a sense of integrity to lead our nation out of these dark times that we found ourselves in. That's 5 points. I could go on the next 5, but I'll limit myself to 5.
So let's go to the chat. We normally have questions from the chat, right? And we want to put some questions on the table with respect to the chat. Lana asks, question, Mr. Aboud, what is your thought on the march on September the 1st? I don't know, I guess, do you know of any march on September the 1st?
That's too far. Which march?
Lana, you have to ask us, you have to put in the chat, Lana, which march, because just so we could follow through on that. So she's going to put in the chat which march. Let me see what else we have here. Hold on, because we like to get questions in the chat.
Recently, I was involved in a march to Port of Spain, where 5 of us went on a march to demonstrate against the government's mandatory vaccine of people who don't want to get this artificial insemination of these chemicals. Which
I like how you put it there. That's nice, because when you put it like that, it's good.
Yeah,
I like how you put that. Yeah.
I mean, many people support this thing. I come from a family of 5 children. 3 of them are supporters of this experimental injection, and 2 of us are totally against it. My wife has given me so much information that I think it's just a terrible idea to get companies rich. The pharmaceutical companies, the shareholders and investors in those companies come from the days of colonialism, the worst, darkest days. They are the people who are promoting these artificial experimental injections. And I beg you to tell your audience to withhold. Take ivermectin. Take ivermectin.
We can't give them any sort of advice here, because our radio station is not one that can give advice one way or the other. But someone asked a question. With all this corruption, Mark Daniel asked, with all this corruption and lack of unity in this country, what advice would you give to a young person who wants to be successful in this country?
I have very strong opinions on that. The first thing is that you need to do as good as possible in school. If your interest is not in the academic field, then you need to take yourself seriously, take your ideas seriously, and inform yourself about the area that you are interested in, whether it is agriculture, whether it is production of some type of sweet or food or distribution, or whether you want to consider producing a food, cooking a food, or farming, whatever it is. Take yourself seriously. There's enough information online that you can become an expert in 72 hours of serious study. So there's room to be an entrepreneur. If you don't want to venture into the private sector field, there is a lot of room for people who know what they're talking about. So just take yourself seriously. If you're in the academic field, study. If you're not interested in the academic field and in university channels, take yourself seriously. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your ideas. There's no shame in working in a team. If you join a company where the leadership and the philosophy of the company has integrity. If the company doesn't have integrity, get out of there at all costs.
So here's another question. Someone says, why do you think Mario Aboud Sabga apologized for his truth in saying that the Syrian Lebanese are the smallest and most powerful ethnic group in Trinidad and Tobago?
Mario is my first cousin. I don't know why he apologized. I don't know what he said to apologize. I wrote a statement after he made his ridiculous, ostentatious, arrogant, stupid, boasting statement. The Syrian Lebanese people in Trinidad and Tobago are a great asset to all of our people. I am Syrian Lebanese, and I consider my contribution to the national development of our country to be very important to me and to be very important to the nation. And I don't believe and support any idea that says that success of those very successful people should be shunned at. What I would urge all people of all races, of which everybody has somebody who's successful, is that you should carry your success with humility, always bearing in mind that we came from a very humble background, and most importantly, that before we know it, we will return from where we came.
So someone says, 𝗲𝗂𝗀𝐻𝗆 says, we need integrity and transparency in all things government. Do you agree with that? We need integrity and transparency in all things government.
Well, when we started in 1996, we started with a watchword was ACT, accountability, consultation, transparency. That is the act. That is the watchword of FFOS, and certainly I support that statement. If there's secrecy, there's hanky-panky, and where there's hanky-panky, there is corruption.
Another person says, Ellis Laborde says, when is your next jab match? We say jab, and why the first one wasn't advertised?
Why the first one doesn't what?
Wasn't advertised.
Well, if we advertise it, we'd be arrested. We got permission from the commissioner, and they were very strict about 5 people only. If we had advertised it, they would arrest everybody. And that's another thing that you may not be aware. I have been arrested and they broke my rib when we were protesting against the seismic surveys, which is marine explosions that they do under the water, which is a terrible, terrible thing to do to an ecology, to discharge these explosive sounds. And we had several demonstrations, and one of them I was arrested and 2 of my ribs were broken when I was defending Wayne Henry. So sometimes the law isn't as lenient as one would hope. So it's a whole question of privilege. But yeah, we can't advertise it. We're having one on Saturday again, but it's not advertised because if we advertise it, they're going to swoop down on us. But I hope they're not listening to this call, and they probably are.
Somebody go send it to them, you know.
Solidarity with the Caribbean. Barbados is having a march on Saturday against the artificial emergency.
There was a march in Grenada. There was also a march in Grenada. There was a big march in Grenada for the same thing. You know, the mandatory jab. You know, they don't think that people should have to take a mandatory jab. Promise. But Gary, we want you to stick and stay with us. We got to go for a quick station identification. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. Don't go nowhere, Gary. You know, we're going to go for a quick station identification. Of course, folks, we are with you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. We have with us tonight, you know, the gentleman, Gary Aboud. You know, he's part of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea. And when we come back, we're going to ask him a little bit about some of the difficulties fishermen are facing out on sea. You know, we'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Don't worry, we'll be right back. Stick and stay. Let me get the station identification here. Here we go. It's right here.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
Of course, we are back with you. It's in the village with the DAG Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us no other than Gary Aboud. You know, he's an environmental activist from Fishermen and Friends of the Sea, and he has willingly joined us. You know, Gary, talk a little bit about some of the difficulties that fishermen face, you know, when they go out and sea. You know, I know that's something that you have been actively being part of. Just talk a little bit about that.
I like limiting myself to 5 things. The first thing is that we have the oldest fishery legislation on planet Earth. Ours is 1918. Every single country in the planet has modernized their law, but we're still in the dark ages, 1918. Well, that creates all kinds of problems because the law that applied in 1918 addressed the problems that occurred then. But 103 years later, things have changed. So this government is in its 2nd term. They brought the law to Parliament, but they put the most outrageous, for a simple thing like not having your fisherman license in your pocket. They say you will be charged $100,000 US. Well, fishermen go to fish. We don't even wear jockey shorts when we go to fish. Where are we going to put a fisherman license? In our pocket. So, I mean, it's so outrageous. You will be charged $100,000 US. You could lose your boat, engine, net, and vehicle if you have a person of school age on your vessel. But all of our fishing communities, rural communities, teach their children to fish on weekends, public holidays, and holidays. So how are you going to charge a man, take away his boat? So the first thing is the outrageousness of governments, government after government, who don't understand, they don't consult, and they treat us as if we are not citizens. We have no right, we have no say. They are the lordships, and we are the serfs. The second problem comes out of the first. Because the law is so old, we have not evolved to have regulations and rules about protected areas, about protected species, about fishing methodologies, about harvest size, about total take, where you can take. So we are still in the dark ages in that a fisherman could go and take a school that's spawning. He could use nets that are monofilament. When he loses them, they will fish forever. He can use fish pots that are not biodegradable. So when it gets ripped up and he can't find it, it will continue fishing forever, not biodegradable. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that here in Trinidad, because we worship oil and gas, oil and gas is more important than the lives of our communities. Seismic surveys have been allowed, which is underground decimation of explosive sounds that when it goes down to the sand, it makes a sound, and then when that sound reverberates and comes back up, they can read and tell if there's oil or gas below the surface. Because seismic surveys have been approved without any environmental impact assessments, that the blasting sound displaces and chases spawning species. So if you have 1 million fish coming into our Gulf of Paria to spawn, and you chase them this year from spawning, next year the harvest, the number of species that are available would be seriously diminished. Fourthly, but not least in terms of importance, is the fact that Venezuelans love Yamaha engines. And we have a local mafia here who are murdering our fishermen, stealing their boats, taking their engines off, and selling the engines to Venezuela. Our government don't have any security mechanism to control the ocean. Simple mechanism. Pandey boasted that he bought radars for the Coast Guard, but 2 years after the radars arrived, they stopped working. No government has been able to confirm that we have radars that can tell when cargo or criminals are moving on the sea. So we have 3 days ago is the anniversary. We had 7 of our men that were murdered, and the engines were taken. And it has happened. In the past 3 months, we've had several vessels where the owners have been murdered. The captains and crew have been thrown overboard into the open sea, chopped and thrown overboard. And so that is the fourth problem. The fifth problem is that because the fishery is considered such a low priority, even though in 1993 it was estimated that 52,000 citizens worked part-time or full-time in the sea, or as a result of in the fishery, whether cleaning fish, repairing nets, fixing engines, fixing boats, fishing, selling fish. Some 52,000 people, almost 5% of our national workforce, worked in the fishery division. Today, 20 years later, the government doesn't treat it as a priority. So when the Clarence Rambarat came into the ministry, he removed 143 staff. He said it was employee padding. but all of the people that collect data in the fishery were removed. So we don't have any national data. And as a result of not having data, the government are making decisions in the blind. They're not consulting people like me because they say, well, you don't know nothing. You have a political agenda, which I don't, and of which I know a lot about the fishery. And I'm connected to 62 community leaders in each of the landing sites. I'm integrated with so many people on the sea, but yet they blank us because they figure that if they call Gary Aboud, that they will give Gary Aboud too much power, too much recognition. So blank him and leave him out. And in the beginning of the program, we talked about the EMA award. That really wasn't given to us by the EMA or the government. That was given to us because stakeholders who belong to the committee to select long service awards demanded that FFOS and Gary Aboud get that award. The government fought it and said no, they didn't want to give it. So there's this sense of paranoia in small societies where, because of race, history, bias, lack of bias, whatever, they lock out a certain intellectual capital, and so people like me are locked out. And so that's the 5 reasons, so five degrading factors, which I consider to be the, at the time of this question, which I didn't prepare for, to be the most important.
But
Okay.
your number 4 answer is something that I'm very concerned about, is the security issue on the waters. You know, the lack of equipment. I've seen pictures of 6 Damien vessels that are rotting in Sterbles. And I don't understand why it was not prioritized to repair them as quick as possible. And I mean, patrolling can be done.
As the supporters say, the Right Honorable 𝗃𝗄𝐿𝐻, 3 years ago, he visited China. And on his way back to Trinidad, unannounced, nobody in the country knew, not even the people in the Coast Guard. He flew into Australia and confirmed the purchase of 2 vessels in Australia from 𝗬𝗲. On investigation, we discovered that 𝗬𝗲 had produced these vessels, this model, 4 years prior, had not secured a single sale, export sale, of a single vessel in 4 years. But Dr. 𝗃𝗄𝐿𝐻 flew in and saved 𝗬𝗲 and purchased 2 of the vessels. I ask you and your audience, why? Is it because he was afraid that his phone would be tapped? Is it because he's afraid that if he told them to inflate the cost and give him a kickback in the Isle of Man, there would be a record? And why weren't the Coast Guards consulted? We had purchased 7 or 8 vessels in the Manning era, brokered by Patrick Manning's son himself as the agent, who had no experience in Coast Guard or marine activity. And yet he became a ship supplier. And now Dr. Rowley himself flies and purchases 2 vessels. And the 6 or 8 that we bought from 𝗬𝗲 before are all rotten. You could read the Coast Guard reports. The hulls can't stand salt water. All of the hulls are rotten. So for decades we've been begging the government to purchase smaller vessels, to create satellite bases for the Coast Guard, to be on all of the corners of Trinidad and Tobago, to have smaller satellite bases with smaller vessels that are faster, easier
Exactly.
to yeah.
Exactly. The small interceptors I see they use in the harbors here in Miami and New York. I mean, in Louisiana or Texas, you know, I mean, the patrolling can be done with several type of equipment in several phases. I mean, in the inner coast, you have these small vessels that can reach the fisherman if he makes a distress call within minutes. I mean, 6 years down the line, you don't see any improvement.
Yeah.
I made those suggestions, you know, in reference to it. Even on Facebook, I didn't post the picture when they were fooling around with this kind of stuff and, you know, saying we don't have this and we don't have that, but we could use certain things that we have, you know, to assist and for the response, you know. But you know, you see, like I said, the 6 vessels still in Stobos rotting there because maybe because 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝘆 bought it, and they're playing the politics. And we just recently saw. This is what I want to ask you about that helicopter that was sitting there for 5 years. That could have been very, how to say, essential in the response, in the distress call, should it have been available. I mean, they have grounded, to my knowledge, I think 4 helicopters when they took office, which I think is very critical to have mobilized. This is not something to play with. We suffer the consequences with our borders, with the illegal invasion, because there was no proper response, no proper patrolling. So, I mean, again, they see the politics and they don't understand the game here that they're really playing and playing with the people's lives. I mean, it's a matter of life and death because it costs us lives every time around. So you have to address it like it's a matter of life and death situation.
Well, two things. One is that as far as I'm aware, the 𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃 government did not buy any Coast Guard vessels. I think they were all bought by the Manning government, but the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 government must take a bow for sinking us with the purchase of helicopters. One of the purchases of helicopters was made 2 weeks before the elections. And that is an outrageous circumstance where the person that they bought the helicopters from has a small 2x4 toy store.
You mean the recent one, the one that they wrap up now? That's the one you're talking about, the one that's wrapped up to ship back?
Well, there's several different ones, but one of the purchases was purchased from a person who, in fact, is a relative of mine, who boasted to me that 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 has dinner by his house once a month. And mysteriously, the commissioner of police had served in that government, and the present commissioner of police, and is currently and still is a school friend of that person, and attends his wedding and has a royal table and attends every funeral. So there's a little network of people who conspire behind the scenes to obtain contracts to supply the government with goods and services. And this is one of the evil things that the Procurement Act would have addressed if the Procurement Act were allowed to be passed in its original form. So Dr. Rowley, I will spit on his grave unless he addresses the Procurement Act, because he is going to retire with $100,000 a month for the rest of his life to live in glory while poor people are suffering in Trinidad and Tobago. And if he really cares, he will go back to this act with Al-Rawi and Stuart Young and the little cabal who are riching up themselves in government. They should be aware that enough is enough. Imagine a minister of government buying 5 cars duty-free in 3 years, and cars that are worth $3 million, they pay $1 million for. And then they receive the car tax-free and duty-free, where you and me have to pay so much freaking duty and tax. And then a year later, they sell it to their friend at a 50% profit and buy another one. The outrageousness of that.
I hear you about that, but that's one phase of the thing. My concern now is when you put the law on the books, we have a corrupted law enforcement structure that we need to deal with. We have a corrupted law, a justice system that has to be addressed simultaneously while putting the law on the books. I mean, you put the law there, and then they all passing the few dollars here and there back and forth to get their way through the system. So the enforcement is something that critically has to be changed simultaneously. With the law. The procurement law is one thing, but then the enforcement is another thing. And with being that you're dealing with the fishermen and the sea, the patrolling and the enforcement and the response on the waters is something that is highly critical.
Well, unfortunately, the Gary Griffith and Patrick and Keith Rowley's spies are listening to this program, because all of my phones are tapped and people follow me around. But I feel very comfortable to say to you that because when Pandey was in government, Ramesh Maharaj passed the Freedom of Information Act and the Judicial Review Act, So once a law is passed, if they slip, they slide. We have gone to court 32 times. Many people are not aware. 32 times in 22 years, Fishermen and Friends of the Sea have gone to court. In 28 of those times, we have taken the government to court under the Judicial Review Act, because if the government makes a decision that is irrational or not in the public interest or could be considered bad public administration or an improper interpretation of the law, we take it to court. And we have had victories where we've had to go, some of our court matters have taken 11 years, 11 and a half years, all the way to the Privy Council to whip their skins for them. Like, for instance, the Patrick Manning government, the first Patrick Manning government passed the water pollution rules fees permit, so that if a chicken farmer had 800 chickens, or a pig or cattle farmer had 20 head of cattle or pigs, he would have to pay the same fee to discharge his fecal waste into the earth as an oil or petrochemical or chemical company discharging the most cancerous heavy metal toxins into our Gulf of Paria. And we fought that with all our lives. In the lower court, we won. In the appeal court, miraculously, the 3 appeal court judges ruled against us, and that raises a serious question in my mind as to the integrity of the appeal court and the biasness that this court often has against particularly people like me, for however you want to brand me. But in the Privy Council, 11 and a half years later, we won, and we won costs. We didn't just win, we whipped them. So today, 2 years, 2.5 years after that victory, the government have had to reevaluate, and the whole planet now has a specific standard as to how the polluter pay principle is to be interpreted by governments all over the world. So that's not a small victory, it's a big victory, but it's unfortunate that common sense, that we have to fight for common sense against an evil leadership that paves the way for corporate bullying and contamination of health and of people's lives and causing of cancer. So everything that you experience in the United States in terms of discrimination is here. It's just we doing it to ourselves.
But you wouldn't hear nothing about that victory. That victory wasn't circulated and published that much because it was against the status quo in Trinidad and Tobago. So you have physically experienced what I am talking about based on my instincts, but you have physically experienced that, so you can relate to what I'm talking about, but not trusting the justice system and how I feel about it. And I have spent most of my time outside the United States, but my instincts have led me to believe certain things by looking at certain things happening in my country over the years. So I'm just making this on my instincts, but you have physically experienced what I'm saying and can confirm what I'm saying. It has to be true to the fact. But
I must say something. I follow the Black Lives Movement demonstration and protests, and I feel very proud to have seen so many non-African people participating, because I lived in America for some years and I went back. About 20 years ago, I went back and I studied at a George Washington University in Washington. And there's good and bad. There's good and bad in America, in all of our people. So it's not all bad. I know that sometimes you face insurmountable atrocities that make you feel that you must brand all people, but that is exactly what you must not succumb to. There are good white people in America and good people of all races. There are people that have love for all.
I think your mic went mute.
Yeah, we lost his voice. We lost his voice.
I'm back now, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Bad and everything, and I feel very proud of the white Americans who see clearly. There are a lot of people that see clearly. It's not all bad in America, but I know there's enclaves. I lived in Virginia, and I experienced racism against Afro because I was friendly with all kind of people, and when I became friendly with non-white people, I was shunned. And so I felt it firsthand. I know what you're talking about. It's horrible.
So, Gary, somebody in the chat asked, Gary, do you think the PNM government will be successful in the 2025 general elections?
We have to wait that long?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Mr. Aboud, as one of your 5-point solution, you said that we needed a new political party to take us forward. Do you think that Trinidad and Tobago is ready for that yet, at this point?
Unless we're colorblind. People like me are locked out. And I have a contribution to make. I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to become mainstream politics, because what we do is the real politics on the ground with real people, one-on-one. That is the real politics at which the official parliamentary politics is based. But I don't think the Kamala government has a chance in the future, because the scourge of corruption was too bad. So unless a third party arises that can get public confidence, I think the Rowley government or the PNM government will win again as it stands now.
That's so sad.
Somebody asked a question. Your place next to K-Donna that was burned, was it a normal fire, or do you suspect arson?
Arson.
Arson? Yeah, you put on your avatar. I think you may have touched it.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you have on your avatar. I think you may have touched it by mistake.
The camera.
You can't see you. The camera.
Okay, I'm coming back in it. I had to go to work.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, right. Go ahead. No problem. Yeah. So, Diana, welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Stone.
Yeah, I had to transport my cousin from LaGuardia to my home. So I'm finally here at home. Hi, guys.
Yeah.
I see the reg.
Run sit down and look your man.
Lord.
I fellas don't know how to behave. So, folks, of course, it's in the village to the DAG Triplets and WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us
Gary,
put back on your
avatar.
Your
when he
avatar.
comes back, he's going to come back for a little bit.
Yeah.
So we could talk in the meantime.
Okay.
Yeah, where's Adrian?
All right. Here you are. So another person says, somebody says, Albert Montano says, with all that information from Gary Aboud, now Mr. Wall Street. They call me Wall Street Gary. Right. What have you to say about Dr. 𝗃𝗿𝗆𝗆 government? Is he destroying the economy? Well, listen, I have said that the government is taking Trinidad into bankruptcy. I have said that. I've said that very loud and clear, and there is no ifs or buts about that. But also, Gary, with respect to the 89 million spent on President's house, right? You were called a jackass by the Prime Minister, and you consider him Lord and King. Have you changed your mind about that?
How you know about that? He really WhatsApp on my WhatsApp.
Listen, Gary, when we come into the village, we have to do our homework. We just can't bring people into the village and just, shout all kind of thing, throw macaroni up on the wall and hope it stick. We have to do a little bit of homework. You know what I mean? So what do you say?
He has style to attack and destroy. That is his style. And I'm not against him for his style, but it's a horrible way to live, because I am a friend of the party. I'm a friend of the country. I'm a friend of the government. I'm a friend of Trinidad and Tobago. And if I send him a message about the outrageousness of government expenditure being excessive and inflated. He should, as a leader, as a true leader, he should listen and say, well, there's an explanation, there's a logic, I could break it down. He shouldn't call me a jackass. You shouldn't call me a jackass. You shouldn't call me, you shouldn't call, I grew up, you should never call a person a name. That's not of God. That's not the way. So, but I forgive him. And I've said that publicly. I forgave him his behavior, and I hope that he should learn from it and be a gentleman. When he lost his brother, I've offered condolences. Every week I find reason to send him a message on WhatsApp. Sometimes he reads it, sometimes he responds. You have to forgive to survive. So I don't want to say that he has to live with his own soul, and this time we hear is just 1 second. This life of 60 or 80 years that we live is 1 second or less of the life of an eternity. So I'm not going to hold a grudge against the man for being ignorant.
Now, Mr. Aboud, I just say, Gary.
Yeah.
So what it is, a lot of people ask this question, right? And do you believe that the PNM is considered to be an African party?
Well, the recalcitrant minority was referred to by Dr. Eric Williams. And last week, Dr. Rowley used the same term. So the PNM government have made clear statements that over the past 40 or 50 years could clearly be considered to be segregationist. And so Dr. Rowley, using the same term about the recalcitrant minority last week, sends the wrong signal. The long and short of it is, yes, it's generally considered an Afro party. Yes, certainly, without a doubt.
Okay. Someone asks in the chat, giving that this is Diana. How are you doing, Mr. Aboud? Thank you for accepting the invitation. Given that this is Dr. Rowley's last term, would you support Penny or Faris as political leader of PNM?
I wouldn't support Faris in 10 lifetimes, but I will do anything in the world to support Penny. I know her. She's a lady in every respect of the word. I think she's honest, sincere, and she has a... I love Penny as a person and as a leader. And I would give all of my support to her.
You know, Gary, I want to say, Gary, it seems like when people come into the village, boy, most of the people that answer our questions honestly, and they don't really, in Trinidad and Tobago, and we didn't give you any questions before you come here, right? Sometimes when people are going to do interviews, they want to make sure, well, they know all the questions before I come, so I could go and prepare. We believe that when you're coming to the village, we want questions to be free flowing. If you want to answer it, you answer it. If you don't want to answer it, you don't answer it. That's why we call it in the village. You understand? And so far, you have answered all the questions that have been thrown at you, and we really appreciate that. We appreciate that you could come in and answer these questions honestly, right? And the other thing is that in the village too, we agree, we disagree, and we agree, but it's nothing personal. It's not personal. We agree and we disagree, but it's nothing personal. I don't know if Adrian or Gary or Tony have any other questions. Because I have just one or two other questions.
Yeah, I have an issue with a national party promoting itself to be of one particular race or other. This is something, I mean, I know that it has been done very underneath in the country, but it's not something on the natural surface that we have experienced. I mean, I have grown up in Trinidad. We never made race so much of an issue. It's only around election time, really, it has become more of an issue. But on our daily lives, we live with each other, we eat and drink with each other, everybody at each other's house, having a good time, or whatever it is. I more experienced the reality of racism when I came to America. I mean, in Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. John was Mr. John, regardless of what race he was. I mean, so race was not so much of an issue for me growing up in Trinidad and Tobago. So I mean, I think it's highly disrespectful for any political leader to support and call any party an Indian party or an African party. And if Kamala did that and said the UNC was an Indian party, she would be done in a minute. I mean, I wouldn't have nothing to do with her. I fell out during the election with 𝗧𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗆 in calling all African brothers to support the PNM. I mean, why are we not supporting based on issues and performance and a vision plan for what's best for the country? Why are we supporting based on race? And this is something has to be promoted, like you were saying before. I mean, and I agree with you, and that's the way I see it. It should be based on performance, who has the best vision for the country. I mean, and that is what you give a chance to. If they don't perform, you have the right to recall the government. And I mean, I am calling on the people of Trinidad and Tobago to recall this government before it's term, to recall it. I mean, you don't have to be violent. We're not promoting violence. You can recall a government without violence. You be constructive. You can protest in a constructive, civilized manner, and force the government to resign. You don't have to do it in any kind of a hostile way. So I think it's in the best interest of the people to recall this government at this point. But again, I'm totally against the promotion of the race talk and promoting any particular party. It's a PNM as an African party or UNC as an Indian party, when you have people of all races on either side and within the government structure.
So Gary, I just want to add to that. Doesn't both parties have supporters based on race? Both parties are the same thing with respect to they have parties that are the supporters are based on race. We can't say one supporters is based on race as opposed to the other. It is something that both parties do in Trinidad and Tobago. They have supporters based on race.
Yes, both parties.
Yeah, something else. So should we be recalling the government or trying to get new leadership?
I'm not qualified to answer these questions. I don't know.
Okay.
Having the support of one particular race or the other doesn't mean that you have the right, or you should promote the fact and call it an Afro party or an Indian party. That is disrespectful in a multicultural society, especially where we live. I can't support any politician saying that.
But Gary, I'm not sure. Did Dr. Rowley call the PNM an African party?
No. But there have been words that have been said that would be suggestive of segregation and discrimination over the decades by both sides. So it's a real thing. I mean, they're both very careful to be subtle about it. But the recalcitrant minority was originally a term used by Dr. Eric Williams decades ago in the 60s. And it has surfaced over and over. And Dr. Rowley is a brilliant guy. He's an island scholar. So when he last week about difficulties with the recalcitrant minority, it's very clear what he's talking about. It's a segregationist term. I mean, there are circumstances in which symbolic acts have been dehumanizing to our Indo population. And, it's a very sensitive topic, and I don't subscribe to any type of segregation or discrimination based on color of skin, eyes, hair. I'm not into that. So I think a national party is what we need. And I think that hopefully programs like yours could promote a more open approach to all ethnic groups who share similar ideologies and philosophies about the right of man, the importance for social justice, equal rights, a humanitarian approach towards sustainable development and the development of economies of scale to promote our people. I think that's where my focus is. I think concentrating on the evil just brings more trouble for us. We have to to close our eyes to it, I wanted to make mention about counterfeit money. Because today I encountered my first counterfeit $100 TT polymer bill. And I got it from the bank. And it just brings back bad memories. When the polymer notes came out in Trinidad, it was reported that $50 million in $100 bills was missing. There was no statement made from the Minister of Finance that they found that $50 million. So where did it go? The media reported it. The story was lost. Somebody got that $50 million because it was missing. So where is it? And now today, I sent to the bank and I get $100 bills. And one of them, it has some lines, funny lines on it. So I scrape it and the color comes off of it. So I'm just asking a question. Why did we change and spend hundreds of millions of dollars 2 Christmases ago to change our paper notes into polymer notes? The Minister of Finance and the Rowley government said because the polymer notes could not be counterfeited. Today I took my counterfeit note and I put it through the UV machine. It passed the test. Perfect. If you go on the Model I Facebook page, you could see a video where I put a video with the actual bill. So if I make that statement publicly, people are going to say, well, he's against the PNM, so that's why he's saying it. He wants to embarrass the PNM. But I'm not against the PNM. I voted for Dr. Rowley against the UNC because I wanted him to get into power in the initial the election before the last. So there's no question of me not being in favor of one government or another. I address him the right honorable. But when situations occur where the public interest is sidewinked and defrauded, what did we pay? In fact, what did the country pay for those new polymer bills? If the price was 100 million US and somebody decided to say, well, wait now, make it 200 million US instead now. Who is checking? Who is protecting the treasury?
Listen, that's a good point. We had Mariano down here recently, and I asked him about the high fees for the liquidator, 9 million US in fees, and for the auditors who get 220 million in fees for a company that's in liquidation. And I was asking the question that, how does somebody getting a company in liquidation and you getting 220 million and the liquidator getting 9 million US in fees? I was just wondering, is the liquidator getting that whole 9 million or something else is happening? I don't want to go there, but
But like when the PNM got into power, they exposed how much the 𝗲𝗄𝗏 government had spent in legal fees. And it was an outrageous amount of money. But 2 weeks ago, the Guardian published how much the PNM spent in legal fees. And it's the same as the UNC. Hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees. Who is controlling it to say that? Because, of course, they removed legal fees from the procurement regulator. So a lawyer could charge them anything and pay a kickback. The procurement regulator can't say, well, look, that is fair fees. Imagine they removed medicine and medical supplies from the procurement regulator. So when you're paying for AstraZeneca $250 and $350 US in America, they're billing us here for $22 US. The minister even came forward and said, the brilliant minister with the 12-inch shoe size, who says he always put his foot in his mouth, he came forward and said that Trinidad and Tobago is to pay $82 US for one AstraZeneca. $82 US.
Goodness.
At the same time, the minister in Belgium published on his Facebook page that he was paying $3.62 US. So we asked the question publicly, why is Trinidad paying 80 plus US when Belgium is paying less than 4 US?
Scarcity, they're going to tell you it's scarcity. Scarcity. Supply and demand. Supply and demand. But someone asked a question. Bonnie Roberts asks, how does Gary consider his governance for the past 6 years? I think he's talking about Dr. 𝗧𝗂𝗲𝗄𝐻. How do you consider his governance for the past 6 years?
Well, I mean, to be fair to the people, it's difficult to judge the work that they're doing at the wave of a wand, because it's not an easy task. You have 15,000 employees. You have 30-something odd ministers. You don't have any particular law to regulate how they spend, what they spend on. It's a very difficult system that we've inherited. Plus, you've inherited the absolute authority that whatever you say goes. So I would say, from the point of view of constitutional reform, the government is a colossal failure, because they should know that what we have is a democratic dictatorship.
Democratic dictatorship.
A democratic dictatorship. What we have done is every 5 years we democratically elect a dictator that has full authority at any time to overrule any ministry in any way. And so that authority that the Prime Minister carries is absolute. And that dictatorship model needs to go back to constitutional reform. So we have inherited from the British a failed model. Unlike the United States system, where you have to go through a system where the Prime Minister or the President doesn't have full authority. He has some authority to veto, but not full. Here he has full authority that whatever he says goes. So the 32 odd puppets that he employs in his cabinet, of which 4 of them form the main cabal, and of which he has respect for.
Who's that for? Who's that for, Gary? Who's that for?
Well, you know them.
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Fitzgerald Hines.
Fitzgerald
Young.
Stuart Young.
𝗵𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗲𝗄.
Call him 𝗵𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗄𝗽. And Dr. Rowley. That's the 5 governors.
But wait, Faris not part of that? I thought Faris was part of that. No?
Yeah, Faris. Faris was the first part of that. The Minister of Finance. I hate to call it
𝗵𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗏. Call him 𝗵𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗏.
Stuart Young.
Stuart Young.
And Gerald. That's it. And Dr. Rowley. 5 of them.
What about D.R. Singh? You not in there?
Who's that?
D.R. Singh, the Minister of Health. He's not part of that? The foot and mouth guy, the foot and mouth disease guy.
No, the foot and mouth guy, far from. He not.
Oh, okay. He's not part of that.
He's a brilliant guy, but he's not a brilliant guy. Who I would say.
Oh no.
Say that again.
The Minister of Works.
He should be part of that. He should be part of that too.
He only skim of it, but he not in his center.
Terrence is not smart enough to be part of that circle.
No.
Terrence is not smart enough to be part of that circle.
No.
Right? Why all them mama guy and Gary on? Why are you? Yeah, but why are you all mama guy and Gary? This is the man who say. This is the man who say we have
feedback. Take off your computer. Take off your computer. We're getting feedback.
Right?
Terrible.
This is the man who say we are 212 nations. This is the man who mix up the national pledge with the national anthem. Right? This is the man who told the Prime Minister, right, that 180 divided by 2 is 140. How he can be part of that circle? Come on. Only do Mama Guy Gary now, man. Do Mama Guy Gary. We know the heads of the cabal is Uncle Kitos, Captain Fall Stuart Young, Money Leprechaun, 𝗵𝗵𝘁𝘀𝗏𝘀, and Pretty Boy Floyd Faris. That's the team ID. All the others just there for show. Fitzgerald Hines, nothing.
Yeah, he knows
nothing at all. We don't Mama Guy, man. Right?
He's the Assistant Minister of National Security, because I know when Stuart Young was Minister of National Security, the Minister of Energy, God rest his soul, Franklin Khan, never used to go and talk for the Ministry of National Security, right? When he was Minister of Energy. You always hear Stuart Young going and talk for Fitzgerald Hines. So Stuart Hines going and speak for Fitzgerald Hines. So Fitzgerald Hines had to be the Assistant Minister of National Security. But someone asked a question, Gary. Is Gary interested in politics and representing the people?
I that already. I'm in the middle of that. Remember, I'm not in the parliamentary politics, but I'm interested in the on the ground politics. Like Simón Bolívar was not interested in becoming a member of any Congress. He was interested in fighting on the ground. So it's a different approach, but I'm not interested in public office and wearing a suit and tie. And I'm not interested in that. That's not the objective. And if it was, I would not have been able to do or to reach out. I would have been fake, because I'm not doing what I do as a means to an end. It's an end in itself.
So someone says, okay, go ahead. Now that you suspect arson, is there an investigation taking place? And if so, how far has it reached?
No, I never said anything, because if there's an investigation, it could take 2 decades and the insurance will not pay. So I never said anything. I kept my mouth quiet, but I don't want to say any more than that, because the insurance companies would love to find it a reason why they don't have to pay. But I mean, I've had all kind of people come and threaten me, and Muslimin come in my home and tell me that they will send to silence me and all kind of thing. But I mean, you know, if there's a young person, you have to believe in what you do. And if you don't believe in what you do and you're not willing to go the distance, then you need to find your way. So I have a nice little quiet life. I live with my partner and we have a peaceful coexistence. And if I have to give it up for a noble cause, then that's how it has to be. But I'll come back. I'll come back and knock on their door, on the window in the night. So,
someone asked a question. Given that you describe the PNM as the Afro-based party, do you believe that people of African descent have benefited from the distribution of wealth?
But some people have. Some people have benefited disproportionately, but not just Afro people. They're financiers and party supporters behind the scenes. There are a lot of people of the Syrian diaspora who have been traditionally supporters of the PNM, but today they got smart and they support both sides.
Correct is right. Correct is right.
So it's not just Afro people, but generally I would say that our Afro populations have benefited to some degree. But if you go to UWI and you see the few amount of Afro citizens at UWI, then you would question my answer, because we have a problem. If you go to the prisons and see the disproportionate amount of our Afro people in the prisons and in the remand yard, then you would say, no, they have not benefited. So we have a critical national problem here that, I mean, when I speak out about it, people say that I'm racist, but it's very real. And we have to confront it sooner than later. Why are less and less Afro males in university? And the Afro citizens that are in university are disproportionately higher among females. So what is happening to our boys? And then you go to the prisons and you look at the statistics of the prisons, of which I'm familiar. Why are so many African males in the prisons? Why? So the answer is no. The Afro citizens have not benefited by a predominantly Afro population, but there are few citizens who drive in Rolls-Royce and Mercedes, who benefiting from all kinds of contracts that are insider deals. And this doesn't work, because if a person isn't trained in the science of the marketplace, then no matter how much business you lump in their lap, they're going to lose it. The science of business and the science of being an entrepreneur is that you must understand the living mechanism of the marketplace, how it works, how it operates, what it likes, what it doesn't like, what it prefers, what excels, what fails, and the nuances of the evolution of the marketplace is something that you can't short circuit it. You can't just give a man a business and say, run it, or give a man a 10 million contract and say, well, use the profit and become a businessman. It don't work like that. And that's one of the reasons why the Syrian diaspora in Trinidad have succeeded so miraculously, because the men sit down and talk business. They go home and the father sit down with his sons and all they talk is business. Brothers get together, they talk business. Cousins get together, they talk business. The women separate and talk different. But that for training. Brothers get together. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another question for you. On climate change, where do you see Trinidad and Tobago 10 years from now? You see a lot of flooding going on.
Well, that's a sweet question, because on paper, we fulfill all our international obligations on climate change perfectly. On paper, we are the best. Everything look good. So what we do is, when we have to apply for international funding from the European Union, the OAS, there are a whole string of funding mechanisms where we borrow and sell our souls and the souls of our children by borrowing money today, so we could grant charge today and build pretty buildings today to say we did something while we were in power, and our children and grandchildren get ransom for the future. So to qualify, we have to write the right thing on paper. And so Trinidad and Tobago are known for writing the best submissions on our obligations to climate change. But on the ground, we are the largest per capita contributor to discharges of ozone-depleted substances. And we hide behind the shelter of saying, well, we're a small island developing state. We poor. So we have to develop. We can't help ourselves. We have to develop. We don't say that the royalties on oil and gas and the royalties and concessions that we give to foreign companies are excessive and exorbitant, and we take kickbacks in the Isle of Man, so that today, 50 years later, 108 years after starting petrochemical extraction, we are poor and bankrupt. We can't balance our trade. We have to borrow from the IMF. We're in trouble. We don't say the truth of why we are suffering. We say that we are a small island developing state, so we have to develop in order to get out of poverty. So we will pay the cost like the rest of the small island developing states. But my personal view is that we are contributing openly, clearly contributing to global warming and climate change. And unlike all of our Caribbean brothers and sisters who are not, who will pay equally the cost of that, we are guilty. We are guilty because we are doing it knowingly. So
I was, go ahead.
Here's another question someone sent in. Do you consider the Syrian Lebanese community the elite of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, we are the new elites, but there are more Indo people in Trinidad who surpass the Syrian Lebanese wealth. But because we are a small population of 2,500, we stick out. So certainly we are included in the elite, but the shareholders of 𝗲𝗏𝗀𝐻, live very simple and modest lives, but they are millionaires and billionaires, and all of the largest of the government spending, many Afro-Trinis have benefited from it. But unfortunately, my preceding point was that unless you teach a person the critical understanding of the market and the rules of how it functions, no matter how much wealth you give someone, they will blow it. And so our Caucasian populations have sat back on their laurels and they're losing it. They're losing it. Then they don't occupy the same level of astuteness that they did in business, that they did 50 years ago. And the Portuguese and Asian populations are growing, as well as the Arab populations. Certainly the Syrian Lebanese people have attained levels of success. You look at Tony Sabga, he bought 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗃𝗃 for $25 million, at a time in 1986 when the economy was collapsing. And today his family are billionaires, and people who invested in 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗃𝗃 are billionaires, and there's 62 companies are leading in the marketplaces that they operate in. So I can't say that I envy any person of the extraordinary success. My personal view is that if we admire the people who are successful, we will learn from them. In fact, 6 months ago, I initiated discussions with 𝗧𝘂𝗲𝐻𝐿 to teach an entrepreneurship program that COVID has shut us down, and I'm intent on pursuing it again, because it's something that we need to teach. And I intend to have several lecturers from that same diaspora who could come and share with their students, and it will be available online, the art of understanding the marketplace and getting into business. We have a lot of Black and Indo-owned and minority-owned businesses that are up and coming. Another idea that we have that actually was born in Moda Live out of the same young entrepreneurship program is that our company has been doing much better in the past 3 years than we did in the preceding 25 years. And so we have committed to an entrepreneurship program where we would cover the cost of purchasing of infrastructure or equipment for small and young entrepreneurs who display the qualifications, success with a product that we are confident in, and with an understanding and knowledge of the marketplace and training on how to market themselves, manage staff, the economies of scale, finances and bank details, marketing and merchandising, HR. Once they understand what they're getting into and they're intelligent enough that we are confident in what they are projecting to do, we will cover the costs. Moda Live up to $2 million TT in total per annum. We will cover the cost of equipment, of 40% of the cost of equipment. So we are currently in the discussions with the ADB, and they have promised to go to their CEO and their board of directors. We had their meeting last week, and we're hoping to launch this program in conjunction with the Agricultural Development Bank, and giving priority to products that convert locally grown or locally produced raw materials into manufactured products for local, regional, and international distribution. So I feel very, very proud of that. Very proud to be considered, although I really don't think I'm the 1%. I'm the 99% of the 1%. But yeah, we are a small company and my assets are very small, but I don't believe in banking. I believe that wealth is working. Your money must be on the ground doing something, not sitting.
So Mr. Aboud, Mr. Gary, we want you to stick and stay for a quick short, right? We're gonna go for a quick station identification and we'll be right back, folks.
You're listening.
Okay.
You're listening to WZYE. You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE LP 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
And of course, folks, we are back with you. And Gary, you are back with us. I know you're trying to get a little snack. We have you here for such a long time, and we do appreciate you. We are back with you. We're going to just try to get a few more questions in before we have. I see Mark had a question here. Mark question was, let me see Mark question. The chat goes so quickly. Mark adds a question. Mark is from Tobago. He had a question with respect to sandals. And Diana, did you see that question? I don't know that question. I had it here. Let me see. Hold up. Hold up, Mark. Mark, I'm trying to get your question. They had a question here for the. Are you seeing that, Diana?
Can I make a comment before I hear the question?
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Trinidad and Tobago does not know who bought the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗍 estate. The person who sold the government the parcel of land for the Sandals Hotel, sold it to them for 80 million TT dollars. The government took taxpayers' money, charging people NIS, and all kinds of poor people getting charged taxes. They took $80 million and bought a piece of the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗍 estate for the Sandal Hotel. But who is the owner of the land? Who is the recipient of the $80 million? Second question. Trinidad and Tobago does not know that the owner of the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗍 estate has approvals for residential, a whole string of residential on the surrounding areas near to the Sandals Hotel. So all I could say publicly is that it's a very well-known Tobagonian who we all know who is the owner of the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗍 estate.
That person also resides in Trinidad right now too?
The person resides here and has a very critical role in government. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Someone, Gary, someone says, Mark Daniel, this is Mark Daniel's question. What is Gary's thoughts on Sandals and Tobago and its ecosystem?
Well, I have no problem with Sandals, but actually I don't like Sandals because these kind of hotels are not. Okay, let me just go back. In 1996, I went to Washington and I enrolled in the George Washington University to do a program with the World Ecotourism Society, where I studied ecotourism. My interest was that if we could develop a type of tourism that did not alienate local people, where the wealth remained in the community, and where the ecosystems would be protected by use rather than abused by misuse, that it would be good for ecosystems, communities, and our local economy, because you would not be repatriating profits. Profits would stay at home for locally owned small businesses providing the service. Furthermore, ecotourism does not alienate native people, but the sun, sand, and sea tourism, where you bring them down and you lock them inside a place where the only person that they see that is native might come in and sing a calypso, serve a meal, or do a limbo dance, I don't think that's proper integration. So I am not in favor of mass tourism or elitist tourism or exclusive gates lockdown tourism. And that is what Sandals is. Now, the few wealthy Afro-Indo local people who are able to afford the entry costs are allowed inside of a Sandals. But the beach is never a public beach. And so I'm not in favor of the mass sun, sand, and sea tourism. So I'm not in favor of Sandals. Having said that, if Sandals or any hotel changes their model to support local food, local culture, and an open approach to sharing and integrating, then I would favor it. But that is not Sandals. So I don't support Sandals for Tobago. Secondly, no man's land is a sensitive ecosystem that drains onto the reef. I don't support that type of tourism. Thirdly, Trinidad and Tobago does not have a reputation of monitoring environmental degradation once an application is approved. In fact, the government of Trinidad and Tobago controls the EMA and have forced approvals that we have challenged in court repeatedly. So, and then the economics of it. we were going to spend all the money after they buy and spend 80 million to buy a little piece of land from a certain person high up in this government that we, the taxpayers, have to pay to build the hotel for Sandals. Think about that. So they just come here and they bring management and bring all the foreign people to run the place and just employ a few little black boys to come and serve cocktails. No. That happened to be the most offensive, modern, colonial, imperialist business development that the Caribbean would have ever have seen. And it was engineered by none other than Dr. 𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗍𝗆, who has a stake in the whole thing. So come on, man. Come on. Don't tell me about development and tell me about Sandals. Come on.
Gary, you sure about that? It's not alleged that he has a stake? It's not alleged?
Alleged he was the engineer. He went to several of the meetings. He met with the family. He had certain discussions. He made the statements.
Okay.
And he was... remember the 𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃? The 𝗲𝗃𝗃s took monies from people who wanted to purchase land from the 𝗲𝗃s, but the 𝗲𝗃s couldn't transfer the land to them. So when the estate was sold, some of those people took the 𝗲𝗃s to court because they wanted their piece of land. And mysteriously, Dr. Rowley attended court every time. So I don't know, maybe he had an interest in the estate.
This was when he was in opposition?
In opposition, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I man, all the best. I mean, if he manages to own all the oil tankers to sell oil in the Gulf of Paria or all of the land in Tobago. And once Dr. Rowley called me to his office when he was Minister of Housing and blackmailed me. And I'm willing, the first time I'm saying it publicly, and he will probably write me a lawyer's letter on it. But he called me into his office to tell me that I will never get approvals to subdivide a parcel of land that I owned. At the time, I had an agent who was selling it for me for 7 million. And he called to tell me that he would offer me 2 million because he wanted to buy land for future Tobagonians to protect the patrimony. So I said, but wait now. That's like me saying I want to buy your house in Glencoe because I want to protect it for Trinidadians. This is Trinidad and Tobago. So he told me that, I told him that my neighbor, oh Lord, my neighbor had approvals to subdivide, and he told me, your neighbor will never get approval. You will never get approvals because he controlled everybody in the Tobago House of Assembly. And all the people in town country who are people who would have to grant the approval to subdivide are people that he employed, his people. And so I will never get an approval. As long as he is alive, I will never get approval. And I stood up and I told him that I would have to wait, if necessary, until he's not in office. 2 weeks later, Manning fired him. I never got the approval. I never did. But I considered that to be an improper act. And if he does write me a lawyer's letter, I will face the consequence. But I speak the truth before my God and before you, that I fear no man. And perhaps that is my demise.
So someone asked a question here. If you have to advise the finance minister on diversifying the economy, what will it be?
If I had to advise on diversifying the
economy, what will it be?
Well, I think we should have a review on the import tax that we charge on luxury commodities. I think we need to make null and void all the tax concessions granted to the judiciary, ministers, and executives of government, permanent secretaries, etc., who are all allowed outrageous and exorbitant tax concessions to import a whole range of equipment, and including vehicles. I think he needs to reconsider the role of agriculture in terms of converting the economy to local production, as well as create a transparent mechanism for the release of colony lands for small farmers. I think we need to empower the ADB to create loans for small business people. I think where the emphasis needs to be is to build from the ground up, to create young entrepreneurs, local production that are heavily reliant on local raw materials. I believe that many of these loans have failed because they are granted to people who are insiders who borrow the money to squander it. So we need to have special requirements and regulations to monitor these loans to ensure that the people with genuine interest in small industry have an opportunity to grow. Personally, I believe that it is wise that we increase the taxation level, because currently we pay 25% for all citizens, 30% if you earn more than $1 million. But I think we need to increase that to 35% to individuals or companies that earn more than $3 million, and 40% for those that earn more than $5 million, and 50% for those that earn more than $10 million. Now, with the greatest respect to the investors, I think that those funds would be, the private sector would be grudged by the government taking money from citizens, knowing that the government steals 70 to 80% of all of the wealth of the country. So you cannot take from us unless you could convince us that you're going to do it, you're going to invest the money properly in the country's well-being. So at the same time that you're proposing this new tax regime, you need to go back to the public on mechanisms to prevent corruption and include private sector stakeholders in every ministry, where you create a special expenditure committee. So the same people who are paying these exorbitant taxes should be afforded from the chambers of commerce throughout Trinidad and Tobago to put up nominees to sit on these procurement committees for each ministry, as well as ensuring that the procurement law is passed with additional consultation and with the
He touched something, Angela.
Something is going on.
Yeah, he touched something and it double timing.
Yeah. So Gary, you come in. Okay, Gary, are you still hearing me?
Tell him to go out and come again.
Something you said something. Gary, do me a favor. Can you talk? Because get a little feedback.
Yeah, he needs to.
Are you hearing us? Are you hearing us? Gary, can you go out and come back in? Go out and come back in. Go out and come back in. Yeah, because you're frozen. Let me see. Man, I don't want to. Should I remove him and bring him back? Let me see.
Yeah. He was coming in double time. Something you press. Sometimes when you press the thing, it gives you 1 time, 2 times. So it's coming in like that.
Yeah, let's hope he gets back in. All right, let's hope he gets back in. All right, so folks, of course, we're doing a little overtime here. This is another long one, of course. Technical problems on a very good point. Yeah. That's the way that's happening in the village, you know. There's always some technical problems of something going on at some point in time. You know, hopefully he will log back in, you know. So let me just do some quick hellos. Folks, you know, we have Darren Prasad. Darren been here before, right? JB, welcome. Wolverine, you're coming late, partner. My dog too. Melissa, welcome Melissa. Melissa Phillips. Ellis LeBord. Boy, you almost named LeBord there, boy. Yeah. Daniel giving up Wolverine for adoption. What
Yep.
do you do?
Yep. As usual.
What do you do? Cause problems, right?
Tommy.
Hey, Diana, can you send him a message to tell him log back in quick?
Okay.
All right, yeah. Just send him a quick message. Thanks. Yeah, my dog, I hear you ask the question when the SCC ending though. I go ask him that question. Melissa, welcome. Cindy Lacan. Cindy, where you joining us from? I think Cindy is new. Cindy, where you joining us from, Cindy? Don't tell me you're from the same place as my dog, please. Yeah, Mark, who knows if all that land at Mason Hall is even his? I really don't know. We could ask him that. Let me see. Yeah, Albert, Gary is speaking the truth. Of course, truth to power when you come into the village. Darren Prasad, welcome. Rose, welcome. Erica John, welcome as well. Ulrich, I see a question, but we're waiting to see if we get back Gary for the last thing. You know, it's funny, yeah? When people come into the village, we so respectfully pledge, yeah? Yeah, Mark says the same way they took Pigeon Point from the Tobagonians. Darren Prasad, good boy. Breadsticks. Somehow Ron behave good tonight, but he complained that he can. Hey Tommy, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, Gary, you there? Is Gary there? Gary?
Probably muted.
Yeah, probably muted. Okay. So
my dog said we reach 1K, next week is 2K.
Hey, my dog, let me tell you something, For real, my dog, I ain't gonna lie to you, boss. I want to really thank you guys, from the bottom of our heart here at WZYE 95.9 FM. It's due to all of you, right, who have made us, our channel reach 1,000K this week. And we really appreciate that. And we're going to continue, right? We're going to continue, Yeah, JB. Gary made some very good points. I'm going to add back there now.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting through.
No, he's not getting through?
Yeah, I think his internet might have gone totally. Yeah.
You heard Albert's question. Why these problems happen only with serious topics?
You know what? I am starting to feel, boy, that JB, maybe you could ask some question to your friends, Why when we have very important people in here,
and I was picking up that I wanted you. I would, when it started to go haywire, I wanted you to get to the ask. Yeah, I wanted you to ask the message to the Prime Minister quick. You got to pick up a cue when the line starts shaking.
You think it's now they're doing that?
Yeah. So my dog say no answer. It's rationalization and satisfaction and real-time information from this channel. This will reach very far. Yeah, Jama, I starting to agree, Hey, Mark, Mark, that's true, though. Mark Daniel, boy. You know what? I remember when we used to have 4 viewers, right? And all you know, Paulie, the fellows part of the Go Along Get Along PNM gang, right? Paulie used to come in to the program and say, let me just say that. And Sam, all you only have 4 followers. Nobody listening to all you. And listening, the fella all over social media talking about Wall Street. And I don't talk about the man, I don't tell him nothing. He was talking about Diana, saying all kind of thing about Diana. I know what he say about Gary. But
we say about wait, go back real and come again. What you say about me? Well, let me hear.
Remember you said all kind of thing about you in the early o'clock?
I could care less. I said don't call me too late.
JB, you're right, And that's the thing.
Their juice, boy.
But how come as soon as something like that, all of a sudden man internet started to go problems?
Yep.
Remember, the man is a targeted man in the country, you know.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. It don't matter which party is in power in Trinidad. It's a bunch of crap. So we have to realize that we need something new. We need new ideas, new blood, new
everything.
youth.
But like Anselm saying, in all your neighborhood, lick down the house and build it over again.
Listen, I tell all you, in our communities, there's knock down good house, knock the whole thing down, boy. A backhoe come and knock it down, lick down everything. It's lick down left, right, and center and build the whole thing back over. That's what you gotta do sometimes. You understand? And start afresh. Lick down the whole thing, because what happens is that, Albert Montano, why these problems happen only with serious topics? You know, when we're supposed to come in here, we're supposed to come and talk about bacchanal and confusion.
Yep.
All the thing we said about bacchanal and confusion segment, just what we talk about is bacchanal and not.
Well, I won't be in on that. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the time either.
Oh, you wouldn't have the time?
No.
Gary, you want bacchanal and confusion, man? Come on, man.
Well, we already
I need to make some money. I can't waste time on that. No?
These troublemakers and rebel rousers and mischief makers. So
yeah, we in a different jurisdiction.
One more bacchanal and confusion.
It's true, because we already have it's true, because we are running the chat. Run is the bacchanalist.
Oh yeah. I giving him up for he and Wolf. I tell them to pack the grip. I giving them up for adoption.
Yeah, Nizam Mohammed is right, you know. We have to have a new mindset to the people in the country. That is it, you know.
But it takes leadership. It takes leadership for that, and we don't see nobody on the ground right now can provide that kind of leadership. People are frustrated.
Yeah.
People are I am being told that people are they're shell shocked what's going on in the country. Like, they just don't know what to do. They're not saying anything. They're just kind of stunned. When I asked the question, I said, "How come they're saying this? They're being told that this stunned. What's taking place?" They're speechless.
You know, cheese stick real popular, but everybody's saying thanks to cheese stick for being but cheese stick. I know you didn't bring your cousin breadstick yet, but you know, bring him in, join the chat, man. Mark Daniel said we have enough bacchanal in the village. Laugh for love. Oh God. Mark Daniel says, and Anson, you see, at the end of the day, this channel providing information and rationalizing it as well as providing solution. Correct is right, man. If it's one thing, we try our best. You know, Lana, that is right, you know. Nobody even Lana, I want to get a close-up shot, Nobody tell me nothing about my shirt, Or let's see my shirt, I'm gonna stand up. You see? Or let's see it, I'm gonna go over here. Or let's see.
But how come what? It's 12% Trini?
No, I is a Trini.
Oh, I thought you said 12% Trini.
No, I is a Trini. I use Belgium, so you don't know no Trinidad, you understand?
Tommy, that look like you said 12% Trini.
Oh, that's 12%. That's 12%. You see 12% there? What? That's 12. That's a apostrophe Z.
I look like 12% Trini to me.
I is a Trini. Look.
He had to make sure he's a Trini, so you put it on his shirt, all right?
Yeah. Man, that's a solely topic jump to Rowley is internet problems.
Oh Lord.
Correct is right. You know, yeah. But not cake. I'm a vegetarian too. I'm actually a vegan, you know. You know what Ellen say? Ellen say, well, she look like I was a P&M.
He buy that at Rattan.
No, I'm not sure. Look, you see, look. What? I was a Trini. Or let's see, I standing up. Look. You see? Or let's see.
It still look like you said 12% Trini.
It looks like half inch.
I ain't going there. I leave it out alone.
Rolly says half inch.
You see, I'm telling them, they're not easy in this chat, boy.
I think they say 12%. Hey, Olio, don't talk about my t-shirt, Only to talk about this. Lara, is you know Lara? Lara calls that to the
No, but on a serious note, you see what Albert says? He says, I'm around since the start of the PNM in 1956 at 11 years. And at the age of, and at all large public meetings, which was 𝗧𝗲𝗄𝗃 and San Fernando. I know a lot. That's why we have to have Albert as a guest one of these nights, man.
All right, so let Gary come back. Let me get him back quickly and we go close up.
Yeah.
Gary, welcome back, Gary. But Gary, let me tell you something. Before whenever we have a program here in the village and we have somebody of significance, we always have internet problems or phone problems. Always. So I think the program might be getting a little too popular because we speak truth to power in the village. But before we say anything, we always ask everyone that come into the village, if you had to send a message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, what would be your message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗆𝗃? No, I think he's muted. Let me unmute you.
No,
okay. You have to unmute the mic. All right, yes. Did you hear me?
Yes. What would I...
What would be your message to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃?
5 things. The first thing is that it is a fact that this country has developed a reputation of corruption. And the only way we could address that is by having enforceable legislation that creates structures. Therefore, it would be wise to reconsider his position regarding the weakening and watering down and destruction of the procurement law. Secondly, there's a critical role that our people need to be recognized to play, and that is the role of production, not serfdom, production, ownership of small businesses, of local growth businesses, farming and fishing and conversion of local products. If it is imported, it should have a substance or a value of local input to create products of value that are marketable and harvestable. Therefore, we need to have incentives and infrastructure for IT and other types of entrepreneurs that are budding, that need support. They need tax concessions, loans, training, special consideration, encouragement. Thirdly, there needs to be a sense of inclusion, because currently we suffer from an alienation with a democratic dictatorship where no one is consulted on whether in education, business, development planning, roads and infrastructure. There are networks of people who are willing to help, but we are locked out. Fourthly, we need to have public consultation again and again and again, because we've had so much of it, on mechanisms for constitutional reform to prevent the excesses of this current system and to create a system of meritocracy, of merit, where people who serve and produce and are able to show their excellence, that they should be given opportunities for growth and for advancement in the public service. And finally, there is no excuse for excessive, unnecessary, costly tax concessions to judges, to ministers, to prime ministers, to leaders of the opposition, to high public servants, permanent secretaries, etc., to spend literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in concessions for vehicles and other excessive, bling. And finally, we need to reconsider a modified tax structure so that those who are making millions and tens and hundreds of millions should pay slightly more to contribute to the national well-being, and that should be implemented with stakeholder inclusion in proper procurement procedures for every government ministry and agency, as well as proper legislation and the empowerment of the procurement entity and officers of the procurement office. So that's more or less it. And when we say procurement, we're not just talking about the government's buying. We're talking about the government selling. So when they sell the ports, we need to have proper oversight and inclusion as to how it is done and how the value is determined and who are the beneficiaries and how it is advertised, whether it's government land, ports, or assets like oil and gas. So I hope that was refreshing.
I want to say, Gary, we want to say here at WZYE 95.9 FM, we want to thank you so very kindly for taking such a long time with us and sharing information. And the people in the chat really appreciate you coming here and sharing so much information with us. We really, really appreciate it. And we say thank you very kindly. And you took this on such short notice. And we appreciate you. We thank you. And we definitely like to have you back. You know, we're not going to make you a stranger. You know, we like you to come because in the village, we speak truth to power. Right? And that's what we are about here. And I know you know, doing those things in Trinidad. I saw you with that pipe, the WASA, the little video you did on WASA and the pipe. I said, you know, I got to ask him about this water that's been wasted all over Trinidad and Tobago. And I saw you with the march as well, when you guys marched on the Red House. You know, and I said, you know, Gary Aboud is actually doing a lot of good things, you know, for Trinidad and Tobago. I really appreciate you. So any closing comments before you go?
Well, I wanted to thank Diana, who I didn't hear much of tonight, Marshall, yourself, everybody. I want to thank you all for, you caught me by surprise. That's why I had to pause. So a lot of the answers that I gave were not premeditated. And I'm glad it was stimulating for me because it forced me to think. And my wife is here. She says that I spoke very well, so she's my view.
No, you did a fantabulous job, man. And listen, here's why we appreciate it. I'll tell you the honest with you. What I appreciate is that you spoke truth to power. You didn't try to quote stuff, and you know people try to put icing on cake. You know what I mean? You didn't do that, and we appreciate that. And that's why when people come into the village, we don't like to give people questions. So you could come in and you could kind of nice up the questions and say what people may want to hear. We want to speak truth to power, and that's what you did tonight, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Gary. I joined the program late. I was transporting my cousin from the airport to Connecticut, so it was a very long haul. So I joined the program late. But next time you're on, I promise I'll be from the beginning. But I learned a lot from you, and thank you for taking the late invitation and coming on. Thank you very much.
If I were there, I would
thank you, Miss.
A shot of punching, but seeing that I'm not
there. when things get better coming down, we gonna have a shot of punching together.
We come to Trinidad, man. Let's come to Trinidad.
Vaccine, you know.
Yeah, we come to get some Trinidad vaccine, man. In front of Fernandez. You want to do it in front of Fernandez?
I want punching and fish.
WHO trying to put out Fernandez out of business.
A lot of companies are locking their workers out and saying that if you don't take this experimental jab, you're not going to be allowed inside the compound. And to me, I thought that all of our trade unions would go in an outrage about that, but nobody's saying nothing.
Me, Uriah Buzz Butler.
Everybody's afraid.
So again, Gary, we want to thank you so very kindly.
Bless you guys. Keep up the good work, and I am going to connect with you all again, God willing, in this life.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aboud. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
And of course, guys, we thank you all for staying with us. You know, and it's really so. Let me quickly say.
Wait, answer before we go. Somebody
let me
say.
just do this in a minute. Wait. My dog, put your closing comments in the chat. My dog and Ellis, can you put closing comments? You guys are going to close the program. Can you put your, my dog have a beer. My dog, Jesus Christ. What anyhow.
Now you see why I bring the cookie here, bro. Now you see why I say, all right. Somebody say you have Rowley picture on the back of your shirt.
Who said that?
Do you need to think hard?
Yeah. I know. You know I Rowley picture on the back of my shirt. JB, thank you. Very good program. I don't watch. I'm not turn around. I ain't gonna turn around, man.
They say you have Rowley picture behind there.
Yeah. I'm not gonna waste my time. That know is that wrong?
Who you think?
Have to be that fella. That little fella, right? Ellis say you want to join Gary movement. Anthony Medford have learned much from Gary. Folks, in the village, what we try to do, we try to give people a little brain food. We not like them other program and then you come on and yeah. No. We not with that. Run. That fella, buddy.
Who what? Darren Prasad dog, you pack your grip.
Yeah. Hey, listen. JB Harper said this program was sponsored by Ratans. This program was sponsored by Ratans, who sponsor Ansem Wardrobe.
Oh no!
Oh God! All easy, you know. Hey, look now, but Buckingham come kind of late. Buckingham, like you was Buckingham kind of soft, boy. You come late, boy.
10:38.
I know. All right, folks. Here we go. That is it.
Time to wrap up.
My dog have his comments. And Ellis have their comments. All right. Okay. So my dog have their comments and Ellis have their comments. Okay, great. So let me go. Go Diana.
Good. Barack Obama said.
Wait, Diana. One minute.
I'm going to be brief.
Go ahead.
Barack Obama said change will not come if you wait for some other persons or some other time. You are the ones you've been waiting for. You are the change that you seek. Trinidad and Tobago, if you're not happy, especially Tobago, if you're not happy with what's going on now, you are the one that you've been waiting for. What are you waiting for? This is the storm bidding you auf Wiedersehen until we meet again. Good night.
There we go. So folks, in the words of Margaret Chase Smith, the right way is not always the popular and easy way. Standing up for right when it's unpopular is a true test of moral character. I'm going to repeat that. The right way is not always the popular and easy way. Standing up for right when it's unpopular is a true test of moral character. That's by Margaret Chase Smith. From where I sit, this is it. The clock on the wall said that's all. I like to stay, but I've got to go. Remember, hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. And for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. Gary?
In the words of Gary Mahabir, if you're unhappy with your government, remove it. If they're oppressing you, remove it. You can do this in a peaceful, civilized, democratic way. I have seen enough. I know you have had enough. So I am saying, let your voice be heard and rise up and remove this oppression in Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to come home too.
Tommy?
Yes, indeed. Eckhart Tolle says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. So with that, I want to say a pleasant good night to all and take this moment serious.
Okay, so Ellis and Mad Dog is going to close the program tonight. Ellis Laborde says, fight for what you have, or you may have time to cry for what you lost. So let me repeat that. Ellis says, fight for what you have, or you may have time to cry for what you lost. And Mardog says, good night, everyone. Always remember, one love, one heart. Don't let political affiliation separate us, because it will kill our nation. Stay safe. God bless everyone. We get better every day. Whoa, boy. Whew. My dog and Ellis, boy. Woo. My dog in that matter after all, you know. Oh, God. And so we're going to go to 𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗃 tonight, folks. Everyone, stay safe, and we're going to see you guys. All right? Let me get 𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗃 here. Where's 𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗃?
Good night, everyone.
All right. Yeah, guys, take care. Yeah, I'm trying to get 𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗃 here. Did I delete that? You know, I think I deleted that.
On the back of your shirt.
You following them? All right. We go to them, Ember. We go to Ember.
Help! Somebody help me! I'm looking for Jackass. Boy, I try to go around the country. I don't know what to do again. Looking to buy a donkey to sell coconut in town. Can't afford to buy a pickup to tote me nuts around. So I gone up in the country looking for Jackass to buy. But everybody I check, they keep on telling me. They say up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. Up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. If you want to see real donkey, aliment a plenty. If you want to find real donkey, aliment a plenty. Donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day. Donkey with PhD, doctorate, law degree. Donkey that dance for sew, don't know from head to toe. Looking for a donkey, you want to find real donkey. Fat donkey, maga donkey, any kind you can get it. Oh, yeah. I went down south in Rancho and also Lopino. Fight of Mondo Nevo and Brasso Seco. They say it have a old man, he bound to have a few. But when I check the old man, he and all same too. He say up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. Up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. If you want to see real donkey, aliment a plenty. If you want to find real donkey, aliment a plenty. Donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day. Donkey with weave and rats, even bald head jackass. Donkey that straight and gay, donkey that bold and grey. Looking for a donkey, you're looking for a donkey. Oh yeah, oh shit.
Oh, you listen to it, donkey, you listen to it.
I know what black donkey, grey donkey. Telling me about. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I wonder if Arena happened. They said that donkey looking like Saddam, and some looking like Madam. Long time had plenty donkey all over the country. You coulda buy 2 or 3, easy. But since it have a shortage of jackass, so they say, just wait until election when they come out to pray. Up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. Up here do a donkey, aliment a plenty. If you're looking for a donkey, aliment a plenty. If you want to see real donkey, aliment a plenty. Donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day, donkey for sewing day. Donkey in suit and tie, who love the mama guy. Drunk and corrupt donkey, that like to lie plenty, looking for a donkey. You want to find red donkey in right road. Oh boy, you have to have national pride. Up in the red house now, they gone back up there. I never go up there before. Boy, ask people now, looking for a donkey. You up and down the country. I feel like what check out my partner Ronnie, you know. You old donkey man, he must know where I could get some. Before they looking to send me in prison or something, you know.
Later on, ask him, I say, you said, we need a new puller to come. Are we ready for it?